G'day and welcome to On The Esky, an Australian sports / dribbling podcast where we will discuss the footy, both codes that we're into, NRL and AFL. Only a few weeks out from finals, some suspensions that have rubbed a few players out for the rest of the regular season. We'll get stuck into that. A little bit of cricket going on. The EPL opened up this weekend. We'll have a look at the Big Six and a few of the changes that's happening in the EPL this year. NFL is just around the corner, one of our favourite sports. We'll be doing Sean's fantasy files. He'll be checking out the running backs that you need to draft in your fantasy league, and plus the Hall of Famers, inductees into the NFL Hall of Fame. A little bit of a weak class. We'll talk about it towards the middle of this podcast. And then a final round featuring UFC, boxing, F1 news, a little bit of Commonwealth Games chat. I think that's going to be covered now, where we shout a beer. That's how we like to start this show, by shouting a beer to commend good work in the sporting world arena. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please remember we have timestamps. You can skip to the sports that you like. Let's shout a beer, Mux.
Sure.
The man on my right. How are you? Who are you shouting?
Yeah, going good. I am not shouting a beer to the Commonwealth Games, unlike you two fellas. I'm shouting a beer to Muhammad Usman, the younger brother to Kamara Usman. 33-year-old. He won the UFC Ultimate Fighter competition, fighting in the heavyweight. Knocked out his opponent, Zach Poga, I'm going to say, with a knockout in the second round. Nice connection with the punch. Crazy good fighter. I mean, the name as well, the family name there. So, yeah, starting out in his UFC career.
Interesting. He's a younger brother.
Brother.
He's a fucking big man.
6'2", 237 pounds.
I wonder if you have to shout him at Tyler Zero, considering he may not accept the beer. But the thought's there.
I'll shout him whatever he wants to drink. I'm not going to argue with him.
So the winner of the Ultimate Fighter, that means he will have a UFC contract. Is that your understanding?
Yep. UFC contract.
Generally the way it works out, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. With Usman Kamara, the older brother, was in his corner as well. So it's cool to see him in the ring after the fight as well, cheering him on. He's got his fight in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Pretty handy man to have in your corner.
That's it, yeah. So this week, Muhammad Usman, shouting you a beverage for the week.
And keep your eye on him, UFC fans. I'm sure we'll see his UFC debut in the near future. A little bit of Commonwealth Games chat, the resis of the Olympics. We like to talk about it briefly, as we are Australians, and we've done very well. And one athlete in particular that's done very well over the last few Commonwealth Games, and this one, Emma McKeon. We saw her in the Olympics dominating. She is now the most decorated Commonwealth Games athlete of all time, with a handy 20 medals total, 14 of them gold, 1 silver, 5 bronze. She has, I think, double any other foreign athlete medal tally in the Commonwealth Games. She overtook Australia's own Susie O'Neill. So queen of the pool, Emma McKeon, power couple now with Cody Simpson as Australian sports / pop star. Pretty impressive crossover.
Too much love triangle going on.
Yeah, we've got to watch out the old love triangles, triangles in the pool, but it definitely hasn't affected Emma's performance. She will go down as the GOAT in Commonwealth Games history. I don't know, maybe Ariane Titmus is pretty young. She might have her eyes set on her, but she'll need another couple games to catch it. Shauna?
Yeah, well, I thought you were a bit of a weak gutted dog for not shouting out the entire Australian team. So that's where my shout out beer is going to go.
Deep pockets over here.
Yes. The whole team.
Oh, he hasn't shouted the country this time, really.
Yeah, just the team for that country. Because we finished the games with 155 medals, which was 7 clear of England. But the main thing was 9 extra golds, so 59 golds in total, 9 ahead of the English squad, which with the last day of competition being today, will mean we'll definitely retain and be defending champions of the back-to-back Commonwealth Games for the Australians. Unfortunate for our Indian brothers, they finished 5th with only 40 medals, 13 golds. But yes, it helps when you dominate in the pool, as Peps mentioned just before.
We were just having a look at the girls in particular in the pool. I think they won all but 6 or 7 of the gold medals available in the pool. Absolute domination.
Yeah, and what was James saying? There was 5 clean sweeps where they
5 podium sweeps. All in the pool.
Yep.
I think 4 from the girls, 1 from the boys. You got that up there?
Yep.
5 total podium sweeps in the pool. Yeah. Australia.
So an excellent Commonwealth Games from the Australians. Let's hopefully that we can turn that in a bit of form for the Olympics in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, 3 years away till Paris. We'll host the Olympics for the 3rd time. I think they joined London as the only place to have done that 3 times. In Paris 2024, the first grade Olympics.
Yes. It's got to step up to the pros and see what we can do.
That's right.
Definitely. That's when the big boys come to play.
Mop of the week this week. The week got a dog of the week. We've gone the whole NFL, have we?
Yep.
In the handling of the DeShaun Watson saga. DeShaun Watson loves to get a sneaky happy ending massage
from Tinder.
From Tinder. He gets a 6-week suspension, but did sit out obviously last year as well. Was that taken into account? Did you follow this reasonably closely?
I don't know, and it was interesting, the process, because this is the first time they've used their new process, because they were worried about previously with Roger being judge, jury, and executioner. So, being whatever he wanted, he gave it out. So they put an independence, and that's what the NFLPA had pushed, and then the NFL agreed to that. So this is the first time they're actually using that. So the independent judge has gone through it and gone through the ruling and gone with it was non-violent sexual assault, I think was the key kind of words there, following, I guess, history with what Ben Roethlisberger and Zeke got with, because there was no criminal charges for either of those as well.
Okay.
And there's no criminal charges here for DeShaun Watson. That's I think the reasoning for the judge for the 6 weeks. And I think NFLPA was like, yeah, sweet, yeah, no, we're not appealing, we're good with that.
Fucking oath. That seems way unders, doesn't it? If Calvin Ridley can get a whole season for chucking $1,500 on his team to win, which is pretty silly, but also, does the time match the crimes in these two circumstances?
Yes. Well, the other factors with those ones, and same with Hopkins with his PEDs, they definitely did those things. Whereas we're kind of like, we're pretty sure he said, she said. A lot of the charges were thrown out, which it's all grey, and we don't want to talk about grey. We talk about enough with the NRL. So I think then from that, it came out the NFL had offered, I think, 12-game, $10 million fine, which is basically everything I think that DeShaun was meant to get paid this year and missed 12 games. So the NFL, the chat that maybe they won't appeal, because it is their own process. So they've basically said our own process hasn't worked, and we're going to appeal that and push for longer, which I think will probably be the full season if DeShaun Watson doesn't want a fine. So that's kind of where we're at. There was chat that the NFLPA could then appeal and have an injunction, so potentially Watson could play week 1. Why they try to decide all this.
Sure, that can't happen, surely.
But I think with the fact they're not appealing the initial ruling of the judge means they can't appeal the NFL's, which I think's odd. So I have no. It's all legal jargon. It's all legal jargon. So yeah, I think the visual, the storyline, I think, is where it's all fallen down with. And we've talked about this before. It's like bet on a football game, no go, but bash your misses, you can play next week. So it's
or it's a lesser fine.
Which
it doesn't make much sense, does it?
I agree. So I think as all of us, we're so over what's been happening with Watson, and we don't really care because Browns.
I'm sure the city of Cleveland does sort of care.
Cleveland cares. We don't.
Did you see what's being hosted in Cleveland this week? The National Convention of Massage Therapists. No cat. That is on in Cleveland this week. You can't write this shit. I saw it in a meme. I'm like, surely not. Quick Google did show that the National Convention for Massage Therapists in Cleveland this week.
It's.
Is it a protest, or are they protesting? Or?
I don't know.
State of capital Cleveland are just like, let's do a funny here. Anyway, so who knows? We thought we'd have some clarity, and in the end, it ended up being no clarity. Still, don't be that dude. Don't draft DeShaun Watson
Watson.
in your fantasy football team.
Have you get him as a steal, man?
Yeah. Have you some of the footage
DeShaun
from
Watson.
training camp, like the day after the announcement, like fans all around Watson, of course. They're like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna have a quarterback week 7 at the Ravens." But who knows? Another month of hoopla, and the concern, of course, will be that it'll take too long, and then Sean Watson and the NFLPA will push for just let him play until there's a decision made.
Fucking hell.
Considering he's already sat out a year, like you said. So, who knows?
Interesting saga indeed. Yeah, I think you hit the nail.
Hit the hat with the nail, yes.
The hammer, something with hammers and nails and heads and the rest of it. We're all getting a bit sick of it, but also wouldn't mind having some concrete, time frames here.
Definitely.
Should we talk some rugby league?
Might as well.
Yeah, let's get into
Right. So the first story we're discussing is New South Wales government trying to get out of the $800 million stadium deal. Obviously, Allianz Stadium has been revamped. They've done a little bit of a lipstick job on it, changed the seats, made it a little bit more modern.
Yep.
Didn't add any seating, mind you. It's still about 43,000, 44,000. They did unveil it during the week. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, well, for considering the regular attendance is like 10,000 in an NRL game, like, that's plenty of seats.
Yeah, maybe don't need 100,000 seat stadiums. Need to get some bums in those seats as is. It does look.
I think 40
does look pretty cool.
I think 40 for a rugby league game is pretty good anyway. Like, just look at Suncorp, it's 52. Like,
It's perfect.
You don't need.
It's perfect.
You don't need to 80,000 on like a stadium, and considering if you're getting 10% of that,
Well, the only times that you're ever going to have it full is the grand final and State of Origin.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep.
But now there's a bit of hardball going on between the NRL with Peter V'landys saying that the New South Wales government has reneged on their agreement. Dominic Perrottet said that the flood reconstruction was the main priority. That's where a lot of the money has to go. But the stadium's finished and is ready to go for the Friday night round 25 clash between the Chooks and the Rabbits. So what is going to go on here, and where's the money going to come from?
I think the other, because I think Brookvale, Leichhardt, and it's
Campbelltown, there's a few suburban grounds that were meant to get some of the money.
That's what this money's for, to make. And you saw during the week, because I think that rail falling off was actually at Leichhardt. They were playing at Leichhardt there.
Oh, is that what it's at Leichhardt?
So, and that's why they're saying, hey, this is why Leichhardt needs a revamp.
That was in a high school rugby union game there on the weekend.
Yeah, and the railing fell down, and luckily it was there's no grandstands at Leichhardt.
No one seriously injured in that one.
Yeah, but they are aging. The NRL still plays a lot of football games at these park footy because it is a better atmosphere.
Way better.
If you're getting 10 or 15,000, you pack them into the small ground, then it's a better atmosphere. But also, you probably want better amenities and get rid of some of the rust around the edges. So to do that, NRL is now threatening to take the grand final back to Queensland because the Queensland government, of course, will be like, fuck yeah,
we'll have it.
Here's some coin.
Yep.
We'll happily take that.
Some MCG chat I saw as well getting around.
Well, I think Brisbane, as general statements, like trying to compete with Melbourne as that sports capital. They've been trying the last couple of months, a couple of years, getting the Commonwealth Games, trying to get in sporting events, stealing.
They've got the Olympics.
Yeah, getting the Olympics. Yeah, like they're now competing with Melbourne as who's got the state for all the sports, which bad for Sydney, and. I don't know. The memes, of course, have been that the NRL's realised that it's going to be a Brisbane Cowboys final, so they're moving it. They're moving it out of Sydney anyway.
The Panthers might have something to say about that.
I agree. I'm just talking the memes, bro. Not the
just
actual
memes,
news.
bro. No, just not real world. Just memes.
just the memes.
That's funny.
So
we'll see what happens. Don't really know the politics side of things. Obviously,
it's a big actually legal stance because it's a written contract. Like the government signs to say they'll pay this money, and then now they want to renege on it. So fair deal because they want to fix fucking flood damage, but also you sign the contract.
Bitch better have my money, says Big Dig V'landys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Josh Papali'i has announced that he will be playing for Samoa in the Rugby League World Cup. Has played a plethora of games for Australia and Queensland State of Origin.
I think he's played for Samoa in the past as well when they haven't been playing for an Australian game.
Okay.
I think he's played at least one game for Samoa.
Can you go a little Josh Papali'i Google there? Might show how many games he's played.
I'm pretty sure he
each.
played at least one with Milford because I remember the two of them played once.
Anyways, it's kind of concerning because if he goes, well, he has gone, does Big Tino, Payne Haas, a few of these other big Samoan and heritage guys that will probably play for Australia if they want to play for Australia. If they go, that might leave the Australian forward pack a little bit short. Also might make a better viewing in the World Cup. Has Papali'i played for Samoa before?
He has. Back in 2017, he played 4 games.
4 games. And Kangaroos, how many games?
He has played 11.
11.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect his origin eligibility. Samoa Tier 2. He could play for Samoa in the World Cup and be playing for Queensland again next year. But a little bit concerning. Obviously, there's been a lot of chat around, a lot of these guys going to play for their heritage and what that's going to do in terms of the makeup of the World Cup for one, but also the future of State of Origin. We probably
eligibility. Yeah,
we probably won't go down that track again. Not this episode at least, but I think a lot of chat around it.
Yeah, I think they're definitely trying to push for, I guess, more separation. I think that's where it is going down that track of State of Origin, international games, international, and don't have them overlap.
They're two separate entities.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting because
again, it makes the World Cup more interesting.
Papali'i wasn't the only one. I think there was one or two other guys, not that potentially were going to play for Australia, but they were big name players that have also decided to play for one of the second tier, what is now currently known as the second tier nations.
Let's bring up the player pool.
Because I think was it Branko Lee might have been one? I can't remember. There was 2 others. I was like, oh yeah, and then Papali'i came out and blew the others out of the water.
Well, Branko Lee's not playing for Australia.
Yeah, of course.
So his eligibility doesn't really matter that much. Whereas a guy like Papali'i or
he played for Queensland, bro.
Or something. Yeah, I'm telling you right now, Branko Lee's not playing for Australia. With the greatest respect to Branko Lee.
Yeah. I know. There's one. Like I said, they were the
Jerome Luai is an interesting one because probably won't play for Australia. You'd think a guy called Cameron Munster might have the 6 jersey.
He might play fullback if he keeps it up.
Yeah, he may do. We'll get,
that's bullshit.
So I suppose those ones where you're like, oh, he's probably not going to play for Australia. So if he plays for Samoa, do you really care? But guys like Big Papa, and if Payne Haas or someone like that was to follow suit, they'd be picked pretty early.
Papa might have seen and thought, well, maybe Paulo and Haas are going to get the front row gig.
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe I can start and play for Samoa and getting older as well, back into the career, etc., etc. So I think it's fair. I'm all for growing the game instead of Australia just dominating the entire tournament.
Yeah, I think
until they get to play New Zealand and fuck up and choke.
Yeah, that has happened in the past.
Yes.
That'll do us for International Rugby League chat. Should we talk the games that have happened? We are Sunday afternoon at the moment, so most of the games are done. Thursday night, we saw the Roosters 34-16 winners over the Broncos at the SCG. Pat Carrigan had that nasty hip drop tackle last week.
I think we've got to talk hip drop because the NRL is trying to tackle it, rule it out, get rid of it.
They're trying to tackle
it. Because Carrigan, of course, was the first one. Was it broken fibula for Hastings?
Yep, out for the season.
Then I think there was there was at least 2 others in games. There was a bad one, and then there was another one which kind of looked like I think it was Sean O'Sullivan did a regulation kind of tackle. But as he's pulling him down, like the guy's running away, but he gets dragged into the dude's legs. So again, it looks like hip drop tackle. He's dropped his hips, of course, to try and slow the dude down. But yeah, they've taken a big stance on it. I think, was it after Joel Tarpany had one done? I think Joe Tarpany got his was more cannonball, but Ricky went after the low leg injuries, and that's kind of where these hip drops come from, where you're essentially rolling the dude's legs up, kind of like the horse collar tackles as well. That anything where you kind of land on the back of the dude's legs and roll him up, they're really trying to get rid of.
Yeah, I think it was Paul Kent on 360 going absolutely ham about this week. Saying that 4 weeks is not enough. Jackson Hastings misses the season. They should be throwing the book at Pat Carrigan if they want to stamp this out of the game. I can see where he's coming from, I guess, but we've spoken about hip drop tackles before on this podcast. In that it themselves, it's kind of how you get taught to tackle, in a sense, in that dropping your weight to the side of someone to bring them down is how you get taught. The problem is dropping all of your weight onto someone below you and breaking their leg
but usually
that way.
you're not. I think the way you're meant to taught it is you actually, when you grab the dude, you're pushing your hips down. So you actually your chest and your torso is facing the ground, whereas a lot of these ones is the other way around. It's butt down. Which you then essentially a passenger. You're on there for the ride, and that's where you kind of get dragged. Like I said, dragged into the back of the legs and put down. But it was interesting with Hastings because of a big injury, and I think as we saw it across both leagues this week in the Australian football leagues. The conversation about should the suspension fit the outcome of the injury for what the offending dude got. So Hastings misses the season. Do you stamp Carrigan out for the remainder of this season, which is essentially what he got?
He's actually going to miss the same amount of games that West Tigers will be playing anyway because they're not playing finals football.
Also true. It's also true.
And I think subconsciously that's going to play effect into the way that things get dealt with. Like it's pretty hard to, you look at that tackle and if Hastings gets up and he's fine, people wouldn't be calling for Carrigan's head in this circumstance. We saw last night with Tarek Sims and that high shot on Connor Tracy, which knocked him out cold. Yeah. If Tracy
should have been a send off, I think.
He got 10 minutes. Anyways, we'll get stuck into that in a sec. But the outcome's going to be taken into effect.
Well, Ashley Klein's in trouble for that again because they're talking about they should have sent him off instead of been in him. But
anyways, the hip drop tackle, it's an interesting one. Poor Melbourne Storm as well. Love or hate them. Definitely sort of hate in terms of my following of the league over the last few years, but definitely respect them. And Cameron Smith was pretty outspoken, saying, piss off. We didn't invent this tackle. A little bit of pointing of fingers.
Yes, the grapple, the actual wrestle on the ground. That's what Melbourne's known for.
Indeed, and salary cap cheating.
Yeah. The judo and to try and get guys down, like that's not. I wouldn't say point directly at Melbourne for that, but it's interesting because this week in the league as well. They very much were looking at head contact again, and the whole forceful conversation came back out, and there was plenty of sin bins across the league as well. Yep. They're definitely. I don't know. Change week to week. The NRL. Now looking more at head knocks. I guess maybe as a reaction to Hardgraves on Fulton and Big Nelson as well, breaking some teeth. So
which he got nothing for.
Exactly.
Did he get fined? I think he got a fine.
Well, he got fined.
I think he got a fine. It seems to be all over the place. That's for sure. Maybe let's move forward.
Stereotypical NRL.
Yeah, indeed. So Pat Carrigan misses this game, and the Chooks looked really good.
They've hit their stride.
They're going in the right direction.
They're healthy. They're looking good.
It's hard to see for me any other team finishing 8th after we saw.
The Raiders have an excellent run home.
They do have a great run home.
But also they probably need to win every single one of those games. And
they need the Chooks. They need the Chooks to drop a few.
At least one.
Victor Radley was throwing his body around like a bowling ball again on Thursday night. He had that nasty head clash with Jake Turpin which probably within about 1 second after the head clash, we had projectile blood shooting out of his forehead, much like when Lenny off The Simpsons gets a 50-cent coin lodged in his head and then pulls it out, put it back in. He gets 6 stitches put in it and then goes back out and starts throwing his body around too. Does he fire you up in the way that he plays the game, or are you a little bit concerned for his health in the way that he plays the game?
Well, bit of both.
I think his health. I think
you look at Cordner and look at the rest of the team.
Yeah.
I suppose over the last couple of years.
But then Radley had that one bad concussion last season. I don't think he has.
Yeah, he hasn't been lodged by it, but just the way that, because this,
I think it hurts him more with his suspensions because he ends up, like you said, throwing his body around and getting arms and shoulders and heads in the wrong spots, and it has to be sat down for because I think he missed 8 games last year through suspensions.
something like that. Yeah.
So I think that's always a concern with Victor.
And has missed a fair bit with injury this year.
Yeah. So that's the concern. It's just like, yes, you're either missing it through injury or you're missing it through suspension because the reckless, your aggressive type of football. But he's still young.
Still young, and I'll tell you what,
just needs some channeling is probably what it is. And he's in the Rooster squad in that system. I think he's got plenty of time to learn.
You can't question his toughness. That's for sure. He is definitely one of the hardest men in rugby league, if not the hardest. Speaking of defectors, we spoke about it last week, didn't we?
Yeah, but playing for England.
Playing for England, Tier 1, won't be able to play State of Origin for New South Wales. Teddy was good, as per usual. Nat Butcher scored a double in the second row. Chook's going good at the right time.
Well, Sam Walker was also excellent in this. I had a thought because I think Kiri's also not on his way out, but there's been some conversations about his role in the team.
He's not the same Luke Keary that we saw dominate the league a few years ago. And again, speaking of head knocks, and he'd missed some time through injury. I don't know if he'll get to be the same Luke Keary that won premierships with the Chooks and with the Rabbits beforehand. He's still pretty handy. But I had this thought during the week. Do you think they could move Teddy to 6? And then because they've got plenty of fullbacks ready to go, like Sawali is one. I wouldn't be moving Teddy anywhere.
He's going back to West, isn't he?
Rumours, all the rumours.
Kidding.
No.
We got some hot news down there.
I don't think there's a chance of that, Jimmy.
That's happening when hell freezes over. Sorry, West Tigers, for letting him go in the first place. Where were we? Joey, I think there might be an argument for Joey Manu to play 6, who we have seen him play in Luke Keary's absence. This is all long-term speculation.
Yes, not this. We're not talking this season.
No, we're not talking this season. I don't even think next season. But I think it's a fair statement in saying that the Luke Keary that we see these days is not the same Luke Keary that we saw carve up the competition, say 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I think potentially they've got young Walker there that could be the what they aim to build around in the halves, and then putting a bigger dude in the halves as well instead of having the two small guys in your front line. It's generally the direction a lot of clubs try to take. But what works for you?
Speaking of 6s and
moving to fullbacks,
not playing
other way around
6 yet. Cam Munster, he played 1 for the Melbourne Storm. They needed a win. They'd lost 4 on the trot. They go up against the cellar-dwelling Gold Coast Titans at home. Did it pretty easily. Munster played fullback. Cooper Johns played in the 5/8 position. And it was an absolute Cam Munster clinic. 3 tries, 252 run metres. Now the question looms, with Pappy out for the season with that nasty broken kneecap, should Munster stay back there at 1?
I think it depends on their depth because I think it was...
they named Tyron Wishart.
Wait,
son of Rod
Nick
at 1.
Injured, isn't he?
Nick Meaney, I don't think he was available, but has been playing on the wing and then sometimes plays one in Pappy's absence.
Yes, so I think it's more a product of we've got extra halves, we don't have extra backs. Munster, do you want to play 1 for us? And he's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yep. I'm
just going to show that I'm still excellent and I want my over $1 million contract. So.
Yep. Don't think it matters what number you put on his back. He's going to produce. He's a very, very good footy player. The other end of the spectrum, the Titans have now lost 11 in a row. They don't actually play a top 8 team now to finish as it stands. So they play Manly, St George, Newcastle, and the Warriors. They are last. You'd think there's a few winnable ones there for them. Marks, you got the table. They're 2 points behind the Tigers.
Two points behind
and
Tigers.
What's the points difference like?
They're on minus 216.
They got 30 points.
185. Yeah.
There's actually a massive game today.
Tigers
in
terms of spoon potential.
Yeah.
The game that's just about to kick off in the Knights and the Tigers.
Well, if the Tigers win, that's a 2-game lead over the Titans.
Yeah, they're up
3 to go.
They're up shit creek. 4 to go.
4 to go, sorry. Yeah, it's...
Hasn't been a good year for Gold Coast. I don't think any of us had them in our top 8 in our predictions at the start of the year, but none of us had them dead last either.
No, I don't think last.
We were sort of all in that sort of 10th, 11th, 12th.
I think 13th.
13th for memory.
But then again, I think we also had like Brisbane at 12.
I was
so-
going to say.
Yeah, Brisbane and
Brisbane and
no one
Cowboys.
really had the Cowboys that going out and playing the
Yeah,
footy.
we had all the Queensland teams in the
bottom eight. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Aaron Booth, that knee injury, bro. I've seen some fucked up things on footy fields before. This was up there. Just such a nasty freak incident, and it was friendly fire. It was his own player coming in and sort of knee contact from the outside. It definitely dislocated. You could.
well, have they got confirmation?
He would have had scans by now.
see if he can
chase that up. They were concerned for ACL, MCL, PCL, like
the lot. All ligaments gone, and that's what kind of reminded me of the Willis McGahey one. Where he blew out everything in their bowl
just
game.
for any of our more league-oriented listeners, can you sort of explain who Willis McGahey is and that injury? Because it's one of the grossest things you'll see on a sporting arena.
Yeah, definitely. So at the time, he was playing for Miami.
American football, we're talking?
American football at college. So he was top 5 pick coming out, playing in their bowl game, last game of the year. Takes a swing pass out to the right, and I think the safety just comes down,
hits him low,
helmet straight on his knee, and essentially the knee just blows up. Every ligament dislocated, like it goes at a funny angle, like it's just ugly. But I think the big difference in that was it was a 200, 220 pound line safety coming down full pace, head on knee, whereas this was kind of like a swing around.
Innocuous. It was so innocuous, wasn't it?
Just shows big lads, but there's still force, a lot of force involved, and get it in the right spot, and just not happy. So
yeah, you really feel for him.
Luckily for Willis, he still got drafted.
He came back and had a good career.
Yeah, still got drafted in the first round. Played 9 years in the NFL. Had multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and for a guy that's made his career on running, just shows like that's. And then we're talking also 15 years ago. So
you'd hope there'd be some better sports medicine perhaps these days.
Yes, they've done lots of ACLs and ligament knee reconstructions since then. So he'll get the best care, and hoping for him as a young fella to get back into the comp.
He's actually a little older than you would have thought. He's 26. I kind of thought early 20s, given he's only played the 10 games. Good mate of Nico Hines. Nico was sending him all the best after the Cronulla Dragons game last night.
Yep.
Did he have those scans, Monks, or are we still awaiting?
No, still waiting scans.
Yep. I imagine he's had them. Probably just the results becoming public, maybe.
Yeah, that's as of a couple of years
Probably
ago.
didn't need to be hard. Just the doctor get the scan, he pulled it up and go, "Oh, that's fucked." I was like, "We knew that already, doc."
Yeah, a bit of a Dr. Nick moment there. Yeah. But yeah, jokes aside, horrific injury, and hoping his rehab goes well and gets his way back to an NRL career afterwards.
Definitely.
Eels Manly?
Eels Manly. Eels, are they pretenders? Are they Dave Grohl's? Are they a legitimate premiership force? We were asking this question last year. We're asking this question this year. 36-20 winners over Manly. Dylan Brown was great. Jacob Arthur in the absence of Mitch Moses.
Had some good comments after the match as well from Arthur. He's like, I hope that quiets him down now.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Hitting back at the haters.
Exactly, father, son, etc., etc.
The H-haters. There's definitely a few of them in the comments I've seen for Jacob Arthur. And the nepotism, perhaps, that has been showed for him. That means, getting done favours. That's probably not the Oxford Dictionary definition of it.
What happened to Moses? Is Moses out hurt?
He didn't play. Monks, maybe you might be able to chase it up, but it's not long term.
No, I don't think so.
I don't have a time frame, but yeah, Monks, if you wouldn't mind, Mitchell Moses injury there, please. A massive game in round 25, the last round. Parramatta play Melbourne.
Yep.
Para will be gunning for a top 4 spot, and Melbourne currently sit in 4th.
So if they get 4th, does that mean they play Penrith?
Most likely, yeah. Penrith pretty much have, actually I'm going to remove the most likely. Penrith, with their win last night, have wrapped up the minor premiership. There's a mathematical possibility that doesn't happen.
Yeah, my point is...
They would have to lose badly the last 4 games.
My point is Para have to play Penrith every week in the finals if they want to make the grand final. That's what I don't see them scaring a lot of the other teams. I don't think they're...
But why? They've beaten Melbourne, they've beaten Penrith this year.
Yeah, but that's because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
They don't beat anyone else. So That's kind of my point. They need to play those two in the finals to then have that run.
Well, that's what's going to happen, essentially.
So we'll see. Well, that's what they're hoping for. They need to get that. Otherwise, if they play
the teams they normally beat,
Brisbane or Cowboys,
then
they'll probably lose that and then get bounced out.
We'll see. We'll see. I think they might be a bit of a smoky. Maybe we'll talk finals thoughts at the end of the round wrap up. Manly.
I think we talked about last pod. Done.
Done.
More reports out the week here that the senior players that weren't involved in the 7 are still, the club's fractured. They're pissed. So, we talked about it there. You can't recover after that. Dragons barbecue, etc., etc. Manly done. Put a line through them. They can't make the 8.
Did you say they had an after party to the barbecue gate with the COVID test in the Manly press conference room?
No, what happened?
Wouldn't surprise me.
So apparently, I don't know the full story. I don't know what's happened, but they just before they had the post game press conference, they found a positive rat test in the conference room.
And
from the media. Yeah.
It was from the media.
From the media.
Yeah, so they then had to move the press conference to outside the Dunnies.
So that's what the Eels did. I think.
So they brought Arthur's outside the ladies taking a press conference.
Yeah, right.
So DCE didn't want any part of the press conference. He's like, just play it safe. Hasler fronted him for a bit. I didn't watch it, but then Arthur did his presser out in front of the Dunnies.
How good. That's a rugby league shit. That is some rugby league shit. South smacked the Warriors 48-10. Cam Murray, excellent. Latrell Mitchell, excellent.
Yeah, took a week off. Better this week. 2
tries assists, 8 goals, 8 from 8 with the boot, 24 points. Most by Bunnies player since 1979. Alex Johnson scored another one.
What's that, 23?
We'll have to chase that one up. Did you find anything around Mitch Moses either?
Reports are that he will possibly play before finals.
Yeah,
possibly. Okay. So
maybe no time frame from what I could see.
Maybe they've got that Melbourne Storm round 25 game
on the calendar
penciled. Yeah.
Alex Johnson 23 tries for the season,
and is it Corey Oates? Corey Oates
at 18.
Double? Yeah.
So 18. So 5 tries clear there.
I'm more in the chase of the 30. That's what I'm interested in.
30. So he would need 7 in 4. 7 in 4. He would need. Speaking of the Chooks getting good at the right time, I think South are getting good at the right time as well.
Agree.
Penrith 26, Raiders 6. A lot of people here in the nation's capital had a lot of hopes for the Canberra Raiders at home.
Well, the Raiders talked a lot of shit in the media leading up to this. So
at home to go up against the Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai-less Penrith Panthers. It was Dylan Edwards' 100th game. He had a blinder. Isaiah Yeo, way too good as per usual. Sean, I watched this one. Did you watch it last night? What were your thoughts, et cetera, et cetera?
I think it's kind of classic Raiders. They
didn't fade.
They didn't fade. Well, they turned off after 20 minutes. They scored a try, and there's a job done. We're in the lead. And then I think from that 20-minute period, in the first half, then it was drop fest on both sides.
Yeah,
a lot of errors. But then Panthers just weathered that storm, got all the possession, and then dominated and ran tries all over them. I think big shout out to Dylan Edwards getting beaten up, taking a lot of big licks, and there's actually quite a few injuries in this game for both sides. So be interesting to see what. Probably not. Well, actually. Tarpany, he's the big one for the Raiders, potentially probably fractured rib. So whether that's whether it's not fractured and it's like pain management for a couple of weeks,
cartilage thing,
or whether it is fractured and maybe misses the next 3 weeks, which is a huge out for them.
Yep. Arguably the informed middle forward in the competition.
I believe
right
with
now.
Contract as well. So
I think he'll be getting that bag surely.
Yeah, and if it's not the Raiders, someone's going to be paying him. But. Penrith still look good. They're still a talented squad outside, missing their halves. They've, like you said, locked up the minor premiership.
Sean O'Sullivan, obviously off to the Dolphins next year. You probably shouldn't.
His kicking game is elite.
Yeah, you shouldn't think of him as a backup 7. Like there's a reason why the Titans have signed him. He's like an NRL ready 7. And then Jamin Salmon. This is probably all the talking point after
We've already mentioned it a couple times.
After the game, we have mentioned it, what was said. There hasn't been context, I suppose, yet. To you call me a weak gutted dog. But they are the words that sticky Ricky Stewart used after the game in the post-match presser to describe Penrith 6 Jamin Salmon. Following a kick, I guess, a lashing out with the boot on Tom Starling. It did get him in the nether region.
Yeah, breadbasket, yeah.
Right in the breadbasket. To be honest, I think there wasn't a whole lot in it from what I could see. You know, sometimes you see guys...
Foot was in the wrong spot.
Foot was in the wrong spot.
And he's kicked out and then he's copped him square in the Gibblies.
And then Ricky said it in the post-match presser that I've had history with the kid. I know that kid very well. He was a weak-gutted dog then and a weak-gutted dog now.
Yeah. No love lost.
No love lost there.
No.
Turns out there was articles in the paper today that this, and Ricky coming out and apologising for his comments, saying that it was family history that he hadn't been able to put to bed from like 12 years ago in like an under-12s game in which Salmon was playing against Ricky's young fella and left him in tears after the game. Not much more came out as to why that had happened. I've cried after footy games, normally around my own performance. But Ricky kind of, you could see that he was passionate last night, and it probably came out in the wrong way. It's not a good look at all.
It was
for a first grade coach to be saying those exact words. If it's said on a footy field, probably nothing happens out of it. I'm sure stuff like that gets said on NRL fields all the time.
Yeah, see you in the Northern Territory. So yes.
Indeed. But for a coach and an experienced coach like Ricky to say something like that in front of the media, pretty poor form. He knows it. That's why he's come out. I think
very frustrated as well, because this game was very important this season, especially with Penrith down on troops. Like, hey, yes, you're going to play no one in the top 8 after this, and. You should probably win a lot of those games and may sneak into the 8. But if you can't beat a depleted Penrith squad, you're probably not going to do very much in the finals anyway. So it kind of sends the wrong message. Like I think Ricky definitely frustrated and is like the team's not where he wants it to be, and probably got goaded into the question a little bit about talking about the nut shot, etc. And it was. Not in a sound mind at the time, and just let loose. But that's also Ricky. That's why the boys love him. So
that's him. We were reading that he's been fined $120,000 in his career for post-match comments, normally directed at the referees. There's a general theme there, but this time directed at Salmon. Salmon reportedly from the Sydney Morning Herald.
A weak gutted dog?
A weak gutted dog, allegedly, according to his Wikipedia bio, is a weak gutted dog. But he was speaking with lawyers, saying if there could be some kind of investigation and defamation and the rest of it. I doubt any of that actually comes to eventuate. But definitely something that will be remembered, maybe for the wrong reasons. This encounter and Ricky's outburst.
We'll overuse it this week in the podcast.
Definitely.
Well, we said it before. Manly are very happy this happened this week. So
exactly.
But it's the NRL. Something else will happen next week, and we'll talk about that.
And I'll say, "Oi, you weak gutted dog!" in the group text. Have you seen such and such? Have you seen such and such? St George signed Cameron Munster for a bottle of beer.
When your mate's dog eats and don't go to the pub with you, he's like, "Oh, you weak gutted dogs."
Monkey's Bucks party in a few weeks. We'll have probably a week off the podcast. It might be a few weak gutted dogs. Yelled on that one.
No, probably some weak legs afterwards.
I'd say so. A few weak guts on the Monday.
Very much so.
Let's finish up the round.
Sharks 24, Dragons 18. No Matt Moylan. Winger Cade Dykes made his debut. Third generation Shark. Dad and granddad both played for Cronulla. We kind of alluded to it before, but Tarek Sims got 10 in the bin for that high shot that knocked out poor Connor Tracy. you could see Sims very remorseful. Was straight down.
Straight away.
You could see in his eyes he knew he'd fucked up. I got in the notes there, probably looking at least 2 weeks. The judiciary came out and said it will be 4 today with an early guilty plea. You can try and fight it for 5. That's priors. Priors.
I think he's had more swinging arms this year than swinging arm Hardgrave had. So, have
you got a tracker on that?
yeah, exactly. Which is unfortunate for Tarek. But Ashley Klein in a bit of hot water as well. Commentary gets stuck into him that it should have been a send-off.
Yeah.
Because there was others that were forceful during the week, this round, that were sin bins, but this was probably a magnitude more, especially with the result of making the bloke stiff, which is mad sentence. Ashley Klein taking a week off for his bunker blunders as well, getting back into it. Number 1 referee in the game, getting torn up in the media a little bit.
Nico Hines, excellent again. He post-match said he wasn't really happy with the Sharks' performance. They probably would want to be winning that game by a little bit more. Credit to the Dragons. I don't think they played that badly. There's, again, in the sort of Hook watch and Dragon staffing watch. James Graham got sacked this week. Was on an assistant there, so that's I think 3 assistants now that have been shown the door. I don't know if
who's making those decisions, I guess, is the question.
The board, I guess.
Running the wall there for Anthony Griffin then?
Yeah, it doesn't look good with all his assistants getting shown. I'm in a few, obviously I'm a Dragons fan, follow a few Facebook pages and the rest, and there's a lot of sort of public outcry for his head. And I've said on the pod before, it wasn't a season where they're expected to do much, so I don't think you can really classify it as a bad season. Given what was expected. Ben Hunt's played excellent. Thank God for Ben Hunt that he's been there.
Well, great you bring it up because I think there's 6 teams chasing him for contract, offering big money, including, of course, the Dolphins. I think Titans are keen to put him together with Kieran Foran back in Queensland. There are 2 Queensland teams, and of course, by the sounds of it, Dragons would be in that list. That's 3, and there's probably 3 other teams in Sydney that also would be interested. Probably Newcastle Tigers, they could all use a Ben Hunt.
Whoever's got money. Yeah. Whoever's got money is probably going to throw some at him. He's currently on 1.2 mil, which I would like to remind you of. Yeah,
it's over for him playing halfback. Maybe you should play hooker.
Just giving him all these props and just shut him straight down again.
Yeah, he's just trying to cover his own ass. That's why.
Well, not cover
That's right. Loved him when he's winning fucking games for the Maroons a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh no, I still love him playing for Queensland, but he's getting paid over to be a halfback for the Dragons.
Interesting. Halfbacks generally get paid more than hookers, by the way.
Yes, that's the reason why he plays halfback. He's not an idiot. I'm not calling him an idiot.
He's a good halfback.
I'm saying Ben Hunt's good. I'm saying the Dragons are stupid for paying overs for him as a halfback.
Just pay him as a 9. Just have McCulloch wearing the 7 and Hunt playing 9. Is that what you're saying? That's what you're saying. Anyways, it's up in the air, Hook's future. I think that's...
I think if Hook goes, Ben Hunt goes.
Interesting, yeah, because Hook was instrumental in getting him and Jack Bird and McCulloch and a few of the guys that he'd coached up at Brisbane down. So interesting to see what happens there. I don't know if sacking him is the answer. A lot of Dragons fans think it seems to be.
Yeah, if NRL had regulation, that'd be a good club to regulate.
Yeah, that's all right. The season probably done for the Dragons.
Yes,
probably. They're 4 points behind the Chooks now. Their points differential is shocking. The Raiders, we mentioned, do have a good run home despite losing last night.
Still mathematical, not in their favour.
Yep. Dogs, Cowboys. The Cowboys with a win there. We haven't been watching any of that. We've been watching the Brisbane Lions start out very hot against the Carlton Blues.
Giving them a bit of a dick.
But yeah, what happened in that Cowboys-Dogs game? Cowboys win 28-14. Any try scorers or the rest of it? One each for lots. Oh no, Drinky got 2.
Double.
Adokar
1.
Right at the start of the match.
First minute.
Yeah.
Keeps it going, the Fox.
The Fox. Cowboys win that as per expected, and the wooden spoon bowl between the Tigers and Knights. The
It would have started.
It's the prelim wooden spoon bowl to face the Titans in the final for for the spoon between the Tigers and the Knights. Should we talk Dave Clemmer?
Yep.
So blew up at one of the trainers who they were saying on Matty John's show last week. I was watching that he's been a trainer at multiple NRL clubs.
Well-known vet.
Well-known vet. So I don't know if his standing has kind of played into this. It was said that so the trainer was trying to get him off the field.
Yeah, they're trying to sub him off at the end of the game.
And Clem was like, fuck off. Yeah, playing out the end of it. There was talks that he was going to get sacked over this. Hasn't eventuated. I don't know if it's just...
Sound a bit more like Kevin Proctor.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, he's on a big contract. Let's get him off the books.
But hasn't been bad this year. But there were some people that had him playing Origin.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't been bad by any means. I don't know if it's an attitude thing. It's also, again, memes. We like talking memes and this. I saw a good one this week saying a lot of the Knights players don't want to be out there and you want to sack a guy that wants to stay out there. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, is it a contract thing? They paid him a little bit too much. Yeah. But it hasn't happened. So it's all just been rumours so far.
Yeah, I think he's...
He was given a fine and he's been stood down for today's
games. Yeah, the Knights have handled it internally. So, yeah. Interesting. And, it kind of follows the week the Knights had with some of the comments from Adam O'Brien. Famous quote that, I've been to 4 grand finals.
He said he's won 4 grand finals, I think.
Yes, I've won 4 grand finals. We haven't forgotten I haven't forgotten how we got there, etc. But of course he was.
He's not lying. He was an assistant at other clubs.
Yeah, he was an assistant though. But that's essentially sounds like a cockhole to me. It's just like he's in the corner watching some other dude bang your wife and says, "Yeah, we banged her." Like, no, you didn't. So
come on, man.
I still got something out of it.
Oh gosh, sneaky wank in the closet, but no.
There's cuckolders into the chat here on the Esky. Look, he knew that he had maybe misquoted himself and came out, I think the next day and said, maybe that could be misconstrued.
Yeah,
or the rest of it.
But also, over the last month, there's been plenty of comments from his press conferences which have called into question, the job that's been going on there at Newcastle.
Yeah, and from what I can see from the outside, going back to the Hook chat and me being, extremely interested in it as a Dragons fan, it seems a lot of Knights fans want Adam O'Brien out the door.
Yeah, well, if they lose today, then we've got both the Titans and the Knights who will be last and second last, but they still have their head coaches. So, I think, writing's maybe there on the wall a little bit, especially for the Titans. They need that coach win. So I would think that both those guys have to be done. I can't see them seeing out the year. Well, maybe they see out the year and it's post, post-season reviews, and they both get done because I don't think they're long for this world. And I know both the Walker brothers are in the news this week saying, "Hey, we're ready. We can definitely take an NRL job." We've shown that we can win at the highest level.
Will they be a package?
Yeah,
they want to go together.
Yeah.
So which one's the assistant /cuckold?
I don't know. Well, the twins, bro. They're the same bloke. So.
Twins? Are they twins? Special twins.
So I think it's a joint gig essentially. I don't think there's a
they switch each week.
Yeah.
There we go.
The media won't know which one's which. So
all happening here on the Esky. Wooden spoons, cuckolds. Mike Myers.
Speaking of which, the Knights were up. They scored first 4-0 after 10.
Early times. Quick rugby chat, rugby union that is. The Wallabies got a win over in Argentina, 41-26. Michael Hooper flew home for personal reasons.
Captain.
So James Slipper, captain in his absence. Poor Quade Cooper. Yeah, Achilles rupture, non-contact. You see the calf roll up.
Yeah, he tries to steps off it. And
34 years of age.
For a guy that's, kind of relies on that, finesse, footwork, etc. Blowing out your Achilles is not a great thing.
Horrible. Hoping that's not his last game ever for the Wallabies. But he'll be facing a lengthy rehab, and wishing Quade all the best there. The All Blacks have lost 3 in a row. That hasn't happened since 1998, with their loss last night to the Springboks, coming off 2 losses at home to Ireland.
When's their World Cup? Isn't that next year?
Next year, 2023 for Rugby World Cup. Obviously, we are leagueies. We don't really talk much about rugby unless we're having a bit of a laugh at it. But the international game is well and truly alive for rugby, and it's looking very interesting with the All Blacks maybe not the the power. They'll still be very good, but they.
I guess the question is, what sort of squad are they taking? Are they taking a full strength squad, or they try
South Africa?
I would have thought for a
Tri Nations game. Yeah, it would have been they would have taken the best available. Coming from,
I would have thought so, but
3 blokes that probably struggling to name you 3 All Blacks players.
Yeah, September, October next year for that World Cup.
Anyways, interesting that the All Blacks
have
shown a little bit of vulnerability in 12 months out from a World Cup.
Yep.
Aussie rules, round 21.
Can we talk about this first?
Yeah, sure.
Because I just want to cover it, because the Lions were up with a good 30-point lead, and I was thinking, we're going to Richmond ourselves.
Blow out, yeah.
No, we're going to do the opposite, what we did to Richmond a couple of weeks ago, what was that, last week, where they got up.
Gave up leading at 40-point lead.
40-point lead, and I was like, they'll take the foot off the pedal, and the Blues will get straight back in this. And
early days, but Blues have kicked the last 3.
Yeah, well, they've kicked straight, kicked the last 3, and 8 behinds there already for the Lions. And it was all one way. Like, the Lions dominated.
Yeah, it was
first quarter, and then most way in second, and then Blues have just gone bang, 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 and then they're back in. It's gone.
I was trying to talk, because we're talking rugby league and mops and Commonwealth games and the rest of it, but secretly, cuckolds. Secretly, I was dying on the inside.
Yes,
perhaps myself being the cuckold in the room whilst the Brisbane Lions fucked my Carlton Blues.
Yeah, well, I want the Lions to win, of course, because
you're a Lions fan. I'm a Blues fan.
Yeah. Cousin Barry there got a goal as well, so he kicks the second goal after Lockie got the first for the Lions.
Yep.
Come on, kick this.
And there's another golazzo for the Brisbane Lions.
This McStay. Yeah. The other reason I want the Lions to win this, of course, because it keeps my happiness of potential the Blues missing finals completely after your grand final chat to start the season. So,
no, not to start the season. After they play
one, 2 games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, first time in how many ever years it had been? Yes,
over 10 years since they lost their first 2 games.
Yeah, so scoring that 5 minutes ago in the second quarter, there 44-21 in the favour of the Lions.
We will have a halftime update for that in 5 minutes. Pies, Demons. Collingwood played Melbourne in front of a big crowd Friday night. The Flag Pies chat is real. It is confirmed. Flag Pies are on 11-match win streak, including 2 over the Melbourne Demons. The big story out of this one was Ed Langdon, Melbourne midfielder, had said that the Pies were all duck, no dinner. They were a one-trick pony. They kind of knew the way that they played football. They were going to go out there and accommodate for that. And then the memes were plentiful, ducks and dinners involved. The Pies, they win this game by 7 points. They are the kings of the close victory. Their last 7 wins have been by 2 goals or less, so lots of single digits wins there. And interestingly, in this 11-game win streak, their 2 biggest wins over Freo and the D's. So 2 pretty fucking handy teams there. Jamie Ellett and Ash Johnson, they booted 4 each. The Pies were able to negate 42 possessions from Clayton Clary Oliver. It was before the game. It was from last week, but it was announced that during the week that Taylor Adams, Pies vice captain, will miss the rest of the regular season with a groin strain. Okay. He then may be able to get him ready for the finals. And Brodie Grundy is not far off either. So they've been doing this crazy, on this crazy win streak without their starting ruckman in Brodie Grundy.
Yeah, which is phenomenal considering his standing in the league as well. So
He's a top 3 ruckman.
yeah, exactly. So it's been great for the Pies. They have Swans and your Blues to finish the season.
Yeah, that's nuts. That last week at the MCG, Carlton's season on the line, Collingwood probably trying to finish top 2, maybe top 3. You'll have 90,000 in at the G there.
I was just trying to figure out, when did the Pies play Geelong? When did they?
Well, it must have been in the first 9 rounds of the season, because I've got their 11 wins there in front of me. You going on a little scroll?
Little scroll.
Little Dead Sea scroll.
Because I guess that's the comparison now. Like they've
Can they go to Geelong?
Yeah, they've kind of, those two have kind of pushed themselves ahead a little bit. The D's have kind of fallen back, but of course, come finals footy, they're going to be in that conversation. But yeah, it's maybe those 3, and then whether there's a dark horse that can make a run. But yeah, I think it's probably those 3 at this point.
I think last week we were talking tiers, and we had Geelong and Melbourne in tier 1. I think you have to have Collingwood in tier 1 now, as much as it pains me to say.
Yep.
The Hawks beat the Gold Coast Suns by 7 points.
Found it. Round 3, yeah.
Round 3, 13-point loss for the Pies to the Geelong Cats. That could be a grand final.
Yeah, that could be the matchup.
Potentially. The Hawks beat the Gold Coast Suns. Jack Gunston booted 5 yesterday. Down in Tasmania, Suns done. I think I've said essentially there. Yeah, that's one of these mathematical ones, but to put a line through the Gold Coast Suns, they're done.
The lines are gone bang, bang, by the way.
Bang, 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 bang. Giants, 96, Bombers, 69. Jesse Hogan, probably the best game of his season. 4 goals, 17 disposals, 12 marks. Not much else to write home about that one. Dockers beat the Bulldogs 95-78. Sam Darcy, son of Luke Darcy, debuted. 19-year-old father-son. He played as a key back to her at 5 centimetres. Just needs to fill out a touch more, but he'll be a very good footballer. Interesting to see where they're going to play him. They've probably been a bit short on key backs recently, so maybe it's more of a team's need thing. But there was speculation that he could be a key forward, he could be a ruckman. I don't think he's taking Tim English's job anytime soon. But it was the Dockers that got the bickies. Rory Lobb, kick 4, Michael Frederick 3, and Nat Fyfe will most likely be out until the final round with a hamstring injury. Freo probably have to win out to finish top 4, or they need Sydney and Brisbane to drop games.
Yep.
Dogs
currently 2 behinds the Swans.
Dogs can make finals, but they need to win out against the Giants and the Hawks, and they need some losses from the Blues and Saints.
Yeah, they're 6 behind Richmond currently.
So this really hurts the Western Bulldogs campaign. Yeah, I think, again, can probably make it, but they need a lot to go their way. It's all out of their hands now, essentially.
Yep. Yeah.
Cats beat the Saints 110-65. That's 11 straight for the Catters. Patrick Dangerfield was a late out. He had a re-aggravation of a calf injury that made him miss a lot of games earlier on in the year. 3 for Tom Hawkins in this one. Isaac Smith kicked 3. The Cats are 1 win away from the minor premiership. Yep. And as for the Saints, they have the Lions and the Swans. Going to be a tough ask for them.
Currently in 9th. How are Richmond on 46, by the way?
Tie, that drawed game against the Dockers last week.
There we go. Yes.
That's how they're 2 points
behind
Carlton and 2 points clear of the Saints.
Yes. So a big loss for the Saints here. Probably expected against Geelong, but it's their season's on the line at the moment.
Yes, indeed. And the Tigers beat the Power. That's the wrong way around there in the notes, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's why. That's what I'm trying to work out why they jumped up over St Kilda. So yes.
Don't do the Ron Burgundy. Don't go and fuck yourself, San Diego. Always double check. The Tigers pretty handy winners there at the Adelaide Oval last night. So since losing to North Melbourne a few weeks ago, have drawn with Freo, beaten the Lions, and beaten Port Adelaide in Adelaide. They're peaking at the right time. I've got Roosters vibes from them, a team that's been there and done that before and won premierships, getting good at the right time.
Another week, another Dusty check.
Yeah, you chase up Dusty. Haven't heard too much, although we will talk about Buddy Franklin in a second, and that may have Dusty Martin implications.
Yeah, yes.
And possibly, I'll go with a segue. Shea Bolton, maybe Dusty's heir apparent at the Richmond Tigers. Kane Corns of, likes to say, outrageous shit fame, called him the best player in the game right now during the week. I think this was a bit of a clickbaity thing. No doubt Shea Bolton has been excellent this year, has really announced himself as an excellent footballer, will be an All-Australian for sure, booted for last night. But if he's the best player in the AFL, I suppose guys like Clayton Oliver, Christian Petrarca, Patrick Cripps, Blues fan, etc. Lockie Neal, the rest of them, they must be playing badminton.
Yes.
No news on Martin yet.
Still nothing?
Still nothing.
It's just quiet.
Dylan Grimes, hamstring tendon surgery. He may be good for finals. So apparently it's a bit of a quick turnaround on that surgery there. The Swans ended up dicking the Roos in the early game, did they not? They were 50 points ahead at last checking.
40 ended up.
40 or 38 actually for those that have the old 40 plus. 40 plus bet. They missed out on the sports bet. But the big chat.
It's about 30 points for North, I think, in the final quarter.
Little fight back there from North Melbourne. Let's talk Buddy Franklin. Big news this week, which kind of turned out to be not news, but the speculation is rife. That is for sure. There was a Nine News Queensland reporter, Michael Atkinson, that had announced that Buddy Franklin would be leaving the Sydney Swans to join the Brisbane Lions next season. He's off contract. He's at the end of that 9-year massive contract.
I think Swans lowballed him as well. Let's kind of watch where this kicked off.
Yep.
It's all contract talks here.
All contract talks. Swans may have offered 500,000 is the chat. He wants more like 7 or 8. Yep. Both the Swans and Brisbane Lions have denied this story. They've said there's no truth to it at this stage, but a lot of people are looking into it. Jacinta Campbell, she grew up on the Gold Coast. Does Buddy want to go to Queensland to play footy?
Yep.
Or to retire?
Yeah. Well, that was Fagan's comments during the week. He was like, if Buddy's moving to Queensland, he's probably retiring, not playing for us. So it'd be interesting. Buddy thinks he's got a couple of years left in him, by all accounts, by the contract talk. So but then the flip side of that, he's probably done well for himself. He may not need all the extra money, and if he's not getting the money he's worth, maybe retire, go up there and live at Noosa maybe, and live it up.
Well, he doesn't have anything to prove.
No.
Is he hungry for another premiership? Does Lance Franklin at the Brisbane Lions make them that premiership contender? What we were talking about last week.
Maybe it's the thing they're missing.
When they got Joe Danaher, they thought, maybe we've got this key forward that can go out and kick us 70, 80 goals in a season. Yeah, maybe that's a bit over given the way that the game's played these days. Yeah. Maybe he can go out there and kick us 40, 50 goals in a season. And probably hasn't quite eventuated, into being a really lethal key forward just yet. Yeah. Does a 36-year-old Lance Franklin improve your hopes as a Brisbane Lions fan, or do you think it's all just speculation?
But it could also be the Luke Hodge factor, because all those guys that play in the forward line for Lions are very young. So it's just like, maybe getting Buddy in for 2 years is essentially to help teach them how to win, which I think is where they need, like, how to win big games is what we need. Well, it's what the Lions need. So it's maybe that's what Buddy can do. He's been there and done that. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the X the X factor they've been missing. I wouldn't say no to it. I don't think anyone would turn down Buddy Franklin if he knocks on your door and says, "Hey, pay me this number and I'll push your club hopefully into potential winning a flag." And you're going to say, "Fuck yeah, we'll take that."
Depends on what the number is. I don't know. But I love the Luke Hodge comparison. And you messaged during the week saying something along the lines of when Luke Hodge went there, they went from being like a young...
Well, they were just young boy.
Yeah.
Because they essentially had come off their dynasty run of being terrible. So the Lions...
the shit dynasty.
Yeah, the shit dynasty. The Lions went through their dynasty.
I've been involved in a few of those in my sporting career.
Yeah, well, they're bottom of the table and they're getting high draft picks and they're essentially rebuilding the entire team from the ground up. So they're all very young. So same thing again. It's like... Luke Hodge really put the grit into them and showed them, this is how you play, be a professional and win football games. So really, try to turn them more into men. And that's what...
Boys to men chat here on
Yeah.
Esky.
Well, that's what you're seeing now. That's why they've been a top 4 squad the last couple of years, even after Luke retired, because they've got that lesson. I think what they need now is how do we then win the comp? Yep. That's the next step they need to take.
Yep.
And in the squad, I don't think they've had anyone that's played in a grand final come in beforehand. So...
That's a good shout. Yeah, none come to mind.
Yeah, because guys that have come across...
Lockie Neal hasn't.
Lockie hasn't. Let's see, would Lincoln McCarthy have been a reserve guy for? That's the thing. I don't think anyone would have been in a starting squad to play in a grand final. So that might be what they're missing. I was like, who's a guy that's won a flag and can come in and show the boys week in, week out. This is what we need to do to take that next step to win a flag.
I like it.
And if you follow connect the dots here. If Buddy goes to Sydney, that Dusty chat.
If Buddy
leaves Sydney and goes to Brisbane, then
Dusty
Dusty Sydney, frees up some money, and there's an extra spot there. And
which was certainly the rhetoric and big talking point of the AFL maybe 6 weeks ago. It's kind of quietened down a little bit.
Well, with Dusty Hurdy and not being in the media, the people not talking about it, but it's still out there, still floating around.
Halftime there in the Brisbane Lions Carlton game, the Lions lead handily by 35 points. The Eagles play the Crows in not much
going on there.
Going on game after this.
Josh Kennedy retired.
He plays today, and then I think he's retired. He's not playing. He's not finishing the season. I believe.
So is this their last home game? Is that the reason?
I think so, yeah. I think maybe Josh Kennedy doesn't want to travel. Monks, you're doing a quick Google there. I'm just double-checking where they play their last two. They play Freo next week, so I'm surprised he didn't want to play in another derby.
Yeah, derby.
No, derby or...
Derby.
I don't know how they say it over there.
Do you think by the way, do you think Patrick Cripps is in trouble for this?
He's got eyes for the ball.
Yeah, 2 elbows to the head.
One
on initial contact and one on hitting him on the ground as well.
Also, again, Calamarchi subbed out. Does that weigh in? Maybe he gets a week. I don't think he's... Well, look, a week we might need Carlton, actually. We might need Patrick Cripps to win a game for Carlton in the next 2 weeks. Yep. Because if they do lose all three, they are in danger of missing the 8.
Yeah, well, if he sits out 2 weeks...
That can't be 2 weeks. That can't be 2.
It's very high.
But he gets the ball.
He also destroys the dude's face. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've got my navy blue glasses on here, but he's playing at the ball and his hand hits the ball.
Well, there's no free as well in the
no free
in within the game.
That has to speak well for him.
Well, the umpy's got his eyes painted on, etc. etc.
Yeah. All right,
just on Kennedy. It seems like this Sunday's his last game.
Yep, done.
Yeah,
doesn't really give a reason. Just done.
Oh, I'm sure there'd be something in the WA media there. Maybe I'll have a look at Josh Kennedy's accolades. It's an interesting little segue there because I do believe that Josh Kennedy and Patrick Cripps are from Northampton, WA, which is a town of about...
Fuck all.
Let's go fuck all. And has produced both Patrick Cripps, his cousin Jamie Cripps, and Josh Kennedy, which is pretty impressive. Kennedy, aged 34, the number 4 pick in the 2005 draft. 200.
There was chat about the 2005 draft, I think, after this announcement as well. If you go through the list of guys that got drafted in that list, I think Buddy might have been in there as well.
Oh, after him. He was drafted by Carlton. He did play 22 games for Carlton and didn't do a whole lot before wanting to go home and becoming a West Coast great.
I think Revolt was in that list too.
Jack Revolt? Yes, maybe. I'll bring it up. West Coast, 270 games for West Coast, 704 goals, 715 total. That 2005 AFL draft, we were talking about the 2004 draft last week and how good it was.
That's where
Carlton took Mark Murphy, and then Daisy Thomas went 2, Xavier Ellis, Josh Kennedy, Scott Pendlebury. Pretty crazy top 5 there. Buddy would have been drafted before this. buddy?
Yeah. I think I might have my wires crossed a little bit, which happens.
Nah, that's never happened before in the Esky.
Yeah, exactly. Aussie sports.
Yes.
Yeah, well, long career, big time goal scorer.
Yep.
And did a job there for West Coast for a long time.
One of the more memorable kicking routines as well, with their kind of the stutter step, but an excellent key forward, and will go down as a West Coast great.
Yes.
Cricket. Should we talk some cricket?
Let's do it.
Let's talk some cricket.
There's not a lot going on.
Not heaps.
India.
India are playing, so that's always of interest. When the Indian cricket team's playing, they are playing white ball.
Just white ball only?
White ball only. No tests attached to this
tour
of the West Indies. They swept the ODIs 3-0. We already mentioned that. Shubman Gill, Shikhar Dhawan in the runs there. The Lord, Shardul Thakur, We're Not Worthy, and Yuzi Chahal, pretty good with the ball in that one. But they played a bunch of T20 internationals this week. India currently have they won the series 3-1 with a game in hand. Surya Kumar Yadav, SKY, to number 2 in the T20 rankings behind Babar Azam, following a few runs. Rishabh Pant's also been around the runs without massive innings from either of them. A few little talking points in this series. Obed McCoy, 6 for 17 in game 2, the best figures ever by a West Indian in a T20 international.
It's not bad.
Game 4, he might want to, forget. Yeah, he went for 66 from his 4 overs in this one. But the most interesting thing about it is it's in Florida. So,
okay.
Yeah. So they're playing in essentially Fort Lauderdale, Lauderhill, a baseball stadium there. It's interesting watching it in a baseball stadium because you watch the footage from one end and they're playing towards where the main bleachers are, and it just kind of, you feel like you might be in a cricket field or an oval that's designed to play cricket, and then it pans the other way, and it's a long way before you get to the bleachers, as they'd call them over there, the grandstands. It's a great move, I think. From the West Indies Cricket Board or whoever's involved in this to try and get into that US market. It was a full stadium, and I was thinking, maybe. Miami, it's known for its international population. Maybe there's a whole bunch of, West Indian, expats living there, perhaps, Jamaicans and the rest of it. About 80% Indian fans cheering on Team India. They did win this one. And it got me thinking about why just on the Indian population in America, of the subcontinental variety, I'm talking, not of native variety. Why they haven't been able to grow the game a little bit more in the US. There's 4.5 million Americans of Indian descent, which is roughly the population of New Zealand, living in the US. We've seen Canada go to Cricket World Cups before, and they're essentially Indian Canadians with a few, of the white variety sprinkled in there. I do wonder moving forward if this is a ploy from the international cricket community to try and break into the US market just based off Indian Americans.
Yeah, but then I also say that's 1.5% of the US population, so
that's nearly exactly what it is. Actually.
So
quick maths boy. It's a tiny proportion.
It's tiny proportional, and compared to and then they also have got the big four.
The big four. I'm sure there's a lot.
The soccer's also there, and
I'm sure there's a lot of Indians that are second generation Americans that grew up on baseball and other sports and don't really care that much. But it is an interesting talking point and cool to see. They will play Game 5 at this same venue as well tonight.
Excellent.
But a little bit unusual cricket in the US. Do you remember a few years ago they had a game in New York, and it was like a bunch of, I think it might have been Team Warren versus Team Tendulkar or something, and it was
like two world teams,
and there was like a bit of an exhibition and they had a good crowd, but there hasn't been a lot of push into the US market. I think as well, maybe a bit of the thinking kind of is, we're making a fucking lot of money off this IPL thing and this new IPL team.
Making billions of dollars in Southeast Asia.
We don't need to grow this game and try to impinge on a market or infringe might be the... No, I don't know what word I'm after there.
Well, in context, like a 300 million population is fuck all. So
in context, yes, and so established in that there's these big four sports,
huge
baseball's the American pastime.
Yeah,
Maybe they just don't care all that much. Another thing that it might speak volumes to is rather the growth of the game or trying to grow the game in America is the game descending in the West Indies. And them going, oh shit, we're more likely to fill out a stadium in Miami than we are in one of our traditional island nations here, which is sad, but it's flogging a dead horse to talk about the demise of West Indian cricket, isn't it?
Do you think they'll ever separate? So as in not play as the West Indies anymore?
No, I don't think they'll ever play as individual nations, although Commonwealth Games chat, they can't play as the West Indies in the Commonwealth Games. So the girls, I think they sent a Barbudan team, which actually Barbados beat Pakistan in the Commonwealth Games. a tiny little nation of Barbados, good on ya. We were talking about the Commonwealth Games in 1998 where they had men's cricket. They obviously couldn't play. This is such a tangent, but anyways. That's great. So they played, I think, Jamaica, Barbuda, maybe Trinidad, Tobago made have sent teams, something along those lines. That's the way that they play as well, their domestic cricket. But you just see so many West Indian people playing soccer now, but like basketball, we've seen West Indian.
And the big lads, they're going into the States to play either basketball or in the NFL.
Chase some of that money.
Yeah, exactly.
Chase some of that cash. You can't blame them. Dead horse, getting flogged here on the Esky. There's money in T20 cricket, but in terms of the West, like it's telling that India would go all the way to the Caribbean to play a white ball series only and not play Test match cricket. Exactly. It's sad. Our dad's generations that would have watched the West Indies dominate cricket in the 70s, 80s, maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia there. But
here's a question for you. Do you think if they'd played a Test match in Florida, do you think they would have got good crowds for the whole lot?
Interesting. It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt considering that they'd look like a sellout there or at least a reasonably full stadium. I'm sure I think
that the Indian fans would turn up for a Test match, especially.
And maybe that's something they could try moving forward. But again, that doesn't help cricket in the West Indies. It's just gimmicky kind of stuff for them to make a bit more coin. But does that actually help West Indian cricket moving forward? Yeah, it's all a bit sad. But a lot of these West Indian kids they grow up in not the best circumstances, and they've got to think of how they might best be financially remunerated, and playing Test cricket's probably not one of those ways. Playing T20 cricket, different story. It's not. It's like it's a different sport, or pursuing other athletic pursuits like soccer or basketball, or even American football. We've seen a fair few guys of Jamaican descent play in the
real
NFL.
Yeah, definitely. Back to the India. No Kohli?
The India.
The India.
No Kohli for the India.
Shikhar Dhawan was...
Shikhar Dhawan, so Rohit didn't play the ODIs but played the T20s.
Okay.
And all the Kohli chat, the Kohli watch was, the whole history of this podcast. Virat Kohli has not scored an international 100. Does he make their best 11 for the T20 World Cup here in Australia in, only a few months' time now? There's a T20 Asian Cup, which will start at the end of this month in the Emirates. He's in the squad for that. There's 6 Asian teams playing. Top of my head, we're going to have subcontinent India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Bangladesh... One other Emirates playing in it. I think there's 6. If you wouldn't mind chasing that one up there for us, Monks, or is it 5? 5 in the UAE.
Want to be confirmed?
Oman. Yep.
Yes.
So those 5 Test cricket playing nations plus Oman in the UAE. So Kohli is named in that. You'd imagine needs runs. We're talking about Surya Kumar Yadav being the number 2 ranked T20 international cricketer batsman at the moment. With him, Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma at the top of that order. Punt, likes to bat 4 or 5. Is there a spot for Virat Kohli in the T20 World Cup?
I don't know.
Looking like no. On form. Form looks like no.
Because you then start the leadership and cultural chat. Like he brings the firebread and has the leadership, being a veteran. But if you're not getting runs with the bat, then you're really not fulfilling your number one duty in the squad. So yes, I think he needs some good runs to have a good average. He probably won't turn up in that tournament, but if he gets a decent average out there and say, I've got decent form, it's not big scores, but I'm contributing, then maybe he can. Well, I think he should keep on that regards. He should keep his spot, but that conversation just keeps going on, and we keep talking about this, where there's smoke, there's fire, and we'll have to see how much longer they give Coley before they push him off.
My personal thoughts is he doesn't make their starting 11 for the World Cup.
I think he'll start the 11 for the World Cup for other reasons, not cricket related.
Okay.
As in sells tickets and money, etc., etc.
Interesting thoughts.
Very interesting. Sorry, it's not Oman. The 2020 Asian Cup qualifier is being hosted in Oman.
So they have been playing.
So they have been playing a comp. So Oman, there was two groups in the group stage. So we had Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, and Maldives in one group.
That was Qatar, not Kuwait, was it not?
Qatar, sorry. Yeah. Kuwait was in the other group with the United Arab Emirates, Sudan.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Wow.
We thought you looked tired today. Are you okay?
Something's going on. I don't know what's
that
happening.
big drive from Sydney, it's really fried.
Must have.
You're getting me excited for a Sudan.
Sudanese cricket team. That's a good quick, sir.
Asian Cup as well.
Probably feel very well.
I don't know why they're in Asia. Good point.
So we had Saudi Arabia, Iran, and then there was a whole heap of other teams. So we had Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Nepal, and Thailand. Got through those all right. And then so the final round robin to get into the Asian Cup, we've got United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Singapore, and Hong Kong.
For that
fighting
one last spot.
For that one last spot, yep.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
You going Team Hong Kong? Team Hong Kong, let's go.
All the way.
Let's go. Tim David, I imagine, not playing for Singapore?
Good question. They haven't named their squads yet.
I can't imagine. He would want to play for Australia in the World Cup, surely. Tim David
so.
of fake Singaporean heritage fame.
Well, what are they doing at the moment? Like, he could just be getting match time. He could be playing for Singapore at the moment to get some match time. Because I don't think they're...
I feel like he might be playing in England.
Okay, county?
Yeah. I feel like he might be playing in England.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
No, he's in that squad.
There you go.
Can you see the last time he played for Singapore, though? Top. Yep. No. So hasn't. Here you go. How closely we've been following Singaporean cricket of late.
Hasn't played since
2019.
Yeah,
Last time. Yeah, Tim David will be wanting to play for Australia in the future, I'd imagine.
Yes, I'd say so.
India do play 3 ODIs against Zimbabwe before that starts. That's my little segue into Zimbabwean cricketer Ryan Burl, who launched 34 runs off and over this week against Bangladesh, and Zimbabwe won a T20 series against Bangladesh 2-1, and Sri Lanka beat Pakistan in the second test at home. That means they finished that test series 1 apiece. So Sri Lanka 1 apiece with Pakistan at home, 1 apiece against Australia at home. Not too bad. They probably weren't fancied to win either of those.
Was it T20?
No, test match.
Oh, test match. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
I think Dhananjaya De Silva made 100, batting 7 in that one. Is it Prabhath Jayasuriya? Famous last name. I think he took a 5 to get them home in that one after Pakistan won the first test. Was following the Singaporean team at the Asian Cup a bit too closely, et cetera. We do love cricket. We do like talking it on this podcast. Often we'll start with cricket at the top of the podcast, but given it's a little bit slow at the moment, we've been focusing more on our domestic footy.
To finish with the Commonwealth Games?
Commonwealth Games. India versus Australia for the gold medal match this evening.
This evening our time. So.
Yes. It'll be... I think it might be a day game over there because they'll have a closing ceremony. I imagine. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here. Don't really know, but it's Australia and India in the girls' gold medal game for the inaugural women's gold medal for cricket in the Commonwealth Games. Staying over in England, we have EPL opening weekend. So the first weekend of the 38-game regular season of English Premier League. The teams coming up, Fulham, Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Good to see them back in the top flight for the first time in 23 years, the first time in the 21st century for the former champions of Europe, two-time champions of Europe, Nottingham Forest. They replaced Burnley, Watford and Norwich. And there's a rule change this year to bring the EPL in line with the other big European leagues who have all had 5 substitutions recently rather than 3. So you can sub on 5 guys this year in the EPL. I've just got the top 6, the big 6, I should say. Probably will be the top 6 at the end of the year, given the nature of the EPL.
Before you went on that, I was just going to confirm. So Fulham won their first game.
No, they drew with Liverpool.
Oh, drew. So yeah,
2-2. Yep. I've actually got the results there. If you want to just scroll down a bit there, monks. Arsenal won opening night 2-0 against Crystal Palace, and Tottenham's currently top of the table after their 4-1 win over Southampton. Southampton did score first in that one, and then...
Well, Bournemouth, they did win theirs, so they're second on the table currently.
Oh, there you go.
One game played.
AFC Bournemouth. Also, we haven't seen City or United play. They play tonight out of that big 6. Yes, so let's talk these big 6 teams. I've got the odds there, courtesy of our friends at Sportsbet. There is a overwhelming favourite, but I've just got them there in alphabetical order. Arsenal, $26 to win the whole thing. Have started off their campaign with a win against Crystal Palace. They brought in Man City pair Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, so that'll be their starting left back and striker. And I think Jesus opened his account with a goal against Palace the other night. They do part ways with long-time forwards in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Alexandre Lacazette, who was a club captain last year. So Gabriel Jesus, scored bulk goals for Man City. It's a massive signing for Arsenal to pick him up. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Chelsea at $20 staying in London. They paid Brighton their biggest transfer fee ever for Marc Cucurella, the Spanish wing-back. They paid him £60 million. It's 4 times what Brighton paid for him. Chelsea do like their Spanish wing-backs. They've got currently Marcos Alonso and club captain Cesar Azpilicueta there. And the other big signing for them, Raheem Sterling, £47.5 million over from Man City, of unrelated to our Jermaine Sterling fame. So that's their big 2 signings there for Chelsea. Now, the big 2 that's been the big 2 for the last few seasons here in Liverpool and Man City. Liverpool, $3.20 from Sportsbet to win the whole thing. Darwin Núñez, the Uruguayan striker, he opened his account last night. Check out that goal if you haven't. On the end of a cross, and goes the right foot flick, so behind the left leg, to put that in the back of the old onion bag. But they weren't able to win at Fulham. They were like $1.20 to win away at Fulham, and had to try and go from behind last night. And then Man City, $1.62 favourites for the whole season.
No value.
No value. Have bought well. We did talk about, Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Zinchenko, Raheem Sterling. That's 3 of their starters going to other clubs. But the big signing in the offseason, obviously, in Borussia Dortmund striker Erling Haaland, the big Norwegian, comes in for £51 million, and Calvin Phillips as well. They paid £50 million for him, the midfielder from Leeds. They're favourites for a reason. They're with Haaland up front. They're probably stronger than they were last year. They're going for a 3-peat, 2 titles in a row. It's. I hate to say that it might be another 2-horse race, but it looks like another 2-horse race between Liverpool and Man City. United $41, the longest of the big six odds there. Brought in Christian Eriksen and Lissandra Martinez of Ajax fame. All eyes around Cristiano Ronaldo.
I was going to ask you what the recent chat was for him.
Hard to chase up. The shit thing, and it shits me to tears with the APL and soccer.
Is he named in the squad to play?
That's what. Well, they don't name the team until about 45 minutes before the game starts.
Okay.
So all the articles that I'm reading are saying that he's a good chance to play tonight, whether if or not he starts may be the issue. Yeah. Barely played in their preseason. We saw United come out to Australia. They played in Thailand or Singapore, I believe, as well. And him and Eric Ten Hag, in the game that he did play, there wasn't great body language, didn't seem to be a lot of chemistry. We've spoken a lot about Ronaldo wanting to play Champions League and maybe turning his back on the Red Devils. So we'll know, I suppose, in the next... 12 hours if Ronaldo plays tonight, and how much do we read into it as well? He could play the first 4 games and then
he could play the first month
and then go off to a team that's playing Champions League football.
I think it's actually only 5 hours.
5? Oh,
six hours. Yeah,
early-ish game. Out so about 11:30 our time tonight. So they don't have. They've just got squads, don't they?
Just a squad.
Yep. Yeah. Be interesting to see how Christian Eriksen goes as well. Career resurgence at Brentford last year. I feel for Brentford. You revive his career. After that shocking experience at the Euros.
Gave him an opportunity,
and then as soccer is, as it always happens, a bigger club comes through and snaps him up. But for Christian Eriksen, the bloke, for him to go from what happened in the Euros to being an elite player again, and now at a big club, good on him. And as a United fan myself, I hope that he's able to look like old Christian Eriksen again. Playing for the Red Devils. And his former club, Tottenham, are $14. So they're actually the third favourite outside of Man City and Liverpool. And I like what they've done in the off-season, bringing in Ivan Perisic, Bissouma and Richarlison. They haven't. The big thing is, they're not massive ins. Perisic maybe has a more of a mentoring role for their wing backs.
Yep.
Richarlison might start. They played last night, actually, so if you can see the starting 11 there, Monks, if you wouldn't mind. The big thing for them is
they won well.
They won well. They conceded first and then put 4 on Southampton last night. But the big thing for them is they've retained all their big players. Harry Kane didn't go anywhere. Son didn't go anywhere. They're third favourite for a reason, and they might be the most improved team this year, maybe.
What are you looking for?
So they played a 3-4 played a 3-4-3 last night. Perisic did not play. Did he take the field? Yes, he was subbed on. So it's essentially that they're lining up similar in terms of their starting lineup as they did last year, but maybe a little bit more depth with Bissouma and Perisic there coming off the bench for Tottenham Hotspur. That'll do us, I think, in terms of the EPL. Bundesliga League 1 also kicked off this week. La Liga Serie A kick off next week. Barcelona in big trouble in terms of their money. They sold Lionel Messi for a bunch. A bit over a year ago, and has seemed like they've been spending a little bit too frivolously and can't pay some of their current and
historically
ex-players.
Gave him a fuckload of money as well. So
yeah, exactly. And it's crazy for a club. This is one of the biggest sports clubs of any code in the world, and there's a bunch of these ex-players or ex and current players that are saying they haven't received their match payments or their wages for quite some time. The UEFA might have to step in and sanction them and say you've got to pay these players before anything happens.
The league is not letting them register their new players.
I think they bought 4 new players and they can't play them.
They can't register them, can't play them.
Can't play them until everyone gets paid. Bitch, better have my money. Very interesting. It's so weird that this can happen at that level.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you if how COVID had impacted their league because I know a lot of across Europe, of course, they shut down all the soccer leagues. And
Yeah, so they played in front of empty fans, not last season, and I think, or maybe the start of last season, but definitely the season before.
Yeah, and I wonder also then following that with the loss of Messi, their sponsorship deals and all that other stuff, they've kind of maybe fallen through and the extra zeros they had on their yearly balance sheet have dried up. So, yeah, maybe in a bit of a tough spot at the moment as they transition into, new club, new look, no Messi, etc.
Anything there on how that's happened? No, not really. The big name, I suppose, in all of this is Robert Lewandowski, arguably the best striker in Europe, who they have signed from Bayern Munich. So until there's some kind of, finances going in the direction of these unpaid players, Lewandowski might not be able to take the field. So
would he renege?
Good question. Yeah,
Like,
well, if you can't play,
if I can't play and I'm not getting paid,
if I can't play, and I've been arguably the best striker in Europe for the last 10
can't
years.
guarantee you're going to pay me.
Yeah, and does Bayern Munich just snap him straight back up and get him back? I think they won 6-1 last night, so maybe not struggling in terms of being able to score goals.
No.
Bayern Munich going for their 11th or 12th fucking Bundesliga title in a row, which is just kind of, again, where soccer's at. Does Lewandowski start looking elsewhere? It'd be interesting. I'm sure they'll be able to try and make space for him. Maybe it's their other signings that suffer. I haven't followed this closely enough either. But
more to come, I'd say.
It just has been a little bit hard to get information about it.
Yeah.
Even when you
Barcelona
Google it,
are trying to
really-
bury the shit.
I reckon there's a few rugs and a few sweeps involved.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. We will watch. We will follow.
Watch this space. Watch this space. Anyways, new season of EPL. It's got me intrigued, at least until, and I hope it doesn't eventuate like this.
Give 10 weeks.
10 weeks and
City at
Liverpool
5
and City
games
haven't lost, and then it's a big jump down to everyone else. But it's the start of the year, and that for me is exciting. And watching some of the highlights from last night, full crowds, atmosphere, all the story around Nottingham Forest, a team that's won Champions Leagues before, being back after over 20 years out of the top flight, all the hoopla around Ronaldo. I'm intrigued at the moment.
Yeah. Can James, you have a quick look for me? When do Liverpool play Man City?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Again,
make it work over time.
That's all right. That's why he earns the big bucks down here on the end.
I was just wondering if it'd be early in the season or towards later on.
They'll obviously play. They'll play each other twice. When is the first meeting? Last year, that was so much of us following. Well, everyone really following the EPL was the matchups between Man City and Liverpool. You've got the schedule there for Liverpool.
17th of October, they host Man City.
So that's about match day 10.
First one there.
Yeah. Ish.
So,
10-ish.
before halfway, that kind of makes sense, I guess. All right. Put it in your calendars.
Is that 10?
Yeah, 10.
Woo,
On the dot.
let's go.
On the nose,
Hey,
yeah.
Thank you. That was an absolute stab in the dark. Lucky it was 10 because I was just going 10 because it wasn't 9 or 11. That's just worked out. Anyways, all right. From the EPL over the pond to the NFL, a sport that we do enjoy watching and playing fantasy football. We'll start with Hall of Fame chat into news, into fantasy.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the Hall of Fame game, we won't spend too much on at all. The Raiders beat the Jaguars 27-11. Not many starters. Did see Josh Jacobs get a little bit of the rock. Did see Trayvon Walker get his first sack, although it doesn't really count because it's preseason. But did see him out there, the number one pick overall. And the Hall of Famers were announced. A weak Hall of Fame.
In comparison
Class?
the class overall was probably not as well known as previous ones, considering some of the guys that missed out, and I guess what's coming next year in for first balance. I get it. Maybe that was the case, knowing with the huge list that's coming up that this is probably the last chance for a lot of these guys, and whether that weighed into it at all. But yeah, for those that don't know, it was a bit of a down class.
Can I leave you two to run through the 8 guys? Just briefly, just mention who they were, what they did. I'm busting for a piss.
Marks, do you want to run us through the names?
And I'll be back.
Yeah, sure. So to kick it off, we had Tony Baselli from the Jags. He was a lineman.
5-time Pro Bowler.
5-time Pro Bowl.
Probably one of the Jags' better players in that decade when they came into the league.
Yeah. Rumours was, I think he was the first Jackson Jaguars players to be drafted.
Yep.
Played through from 1995 season all the way through to 2001. After him, we had Cliff Branch. So he was posthumously inducted into the Hall of Fame. He unfortunately passed away about 3 years ago. So he was a
71.
Raiders. Yeah.
71 years old, and he played in the 70s.
Played in the 70s, yeah. Played for the Raiders there.
3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time Pro Bowls.
Allegedly ran a 10-second 100-meter in 1972.
Which is very quick.
Fast.
Would have won the Commonwealth Games the other night.
Yep.
So, yeah, very fast.
Definitely. After him, we had Leroy Butler of Packers fame. He played as a safety for the Packers in the, I suppose, right across the 90s, I guess we'd say.
Yep.
4-time first team All-Pro and Super Bowl champ with the Packers there. After them, after Butler, we had Art McNally. So he was inducted as, I guess, one of those not player.
Service to the game.
Yeah, that's it. So he was a long-standing official. He also, I guess, was the leader of the officiating, drove a lot of what the officiating is in the game today. Inducted in the Hall of Fame for his officiating career, which spanned from 1968 all the way through to 1990. After him, we had Sam Mills, linebackers for the Saints and Panthers. 5 Pro Bowls, 1-time All-Pro. Came through from the USFL to the NFL. Had over 13,000
would be impressive, but 1,300
numbers. 13,000 tackles across his career.
Which is still, a heap of tackles.
Crazy, yeah. We're sort of wondering why he was probably in the list to begin with, and that's probably sort of the indication of...
Yeah, great stats, 5-time Pro Bowl and 1-time All-Pro. Like, definitely a good linebacker there, and in the 90s. And a lot of these guys actually were from that kind of 90s, early 2000 era.
Yeah, a little bit of a throwback Hall of Fame. He played from 1986 all the way through to 1997. After him, we had Richard Seymour, D lineman,
which is probably the most well-known one, I'd say, on this list since the turn of the century. For NFL fans, they would know of Richard Seymour.
Yeah, definitely for people our age, younger fans. He was the first name that I recognised on this list. It was interesting seeing him he did like a little presser or a little interview during the Raiders Jags game. Has not blown out at all. Like is still traps and shoulders and a big man.
Yeah, I think they do the Hall of Fame speeches this week as well.
Oh, okay.
Again, yes.
Dick Vermeil.
Yeah. Coach. Huge long career.
Yeah.
We were looking at it before pod. We just couldn't believe how long he'd been in and around the game for, I guess, yeah.
And in 2 different fields. So 15 years as a head coach, firstly with the Eagles, went through the Rams as like quarterback coach and I think at UCLA and a little bit in college, but then got his start with the Rams, in some of the smaller coaching gigs. And then his first head coach tenure was with the Eagles. And then a 15-year hiatus, and we thought, oh, geez, what was he doing then? He was calling games. He was an announcer and a broadcaster, and then thought, I've got the itch. I want to go back and be a head coach again. And he goes back and coaches the Rams to their Super Bowl in 2000 with the greatest show on turf, one of the greatest offenses ever put together. I was watching on Seven Mate down under here. We get a little bit of the old NFL
America's Game, I think.
America's Game kind of stuff. They do a lot of top hundreds and things.
Yep.
And they were going through the greatest plays in NFL history. And the classic one from that Super Bowl where
Jones.
the Titans receiver, I forget his name, but Steve McNair hits him on the slant and he gets tackled 1 yard short, agonisingly short. Does the reach out and it was that game there where Dick Vermeil was the head coach.
Yeah, Mike Jones with the tackle, by the way.
Mike Jones. There you go. Kevin Dyson. Thank you, Path Patel.
There you go.
Back on his stint at Philly as well. So he inherited a 4-10 team, and he took that team through to the Super Bowl as well. So he took 2 teams to the Super Bowl. There and then also inherited a pretty average or less than average Kansas City's Chief team and took them all the way through to championship games as well. So
01 to 05, who are we talking there? Is that like Trent Green?
Yes.
Trent Green, Priest
Holmes. Yeah.
the famous Tony Gonzalez, Dante Hall.
This is when we were first starting to follow the sport.
Yeah, that's it. So by all accounts, like coming as head coach to less than average teams and turning them around real quick in 1-2 year span, and then sort of retiring or from that position, walking away and just going on to something else.
How old
each
is he?
time.
He'd be an old man these days.
85 years old.
Yep.
Same birthday as me.
Happy birthday to Monks and Dick Vermeil when that comes up in October. And the last one admitted this year, Bryant Young.
Yeah. Yeah, so 49ers D tackle, Super Bowl champ 1995, comeback player of the year in 1999.
After breaking his leg and having a metal rod inserted in there. Pretty impressive to even play football again after that. 4 times Pro Bowler.
I think 89.5 sacks for his total.
So nearly, just short of the 100 sack club there. As good as all these guys are, I think you have to say it is probably a weaker class. Some of the names that missed out, Patrick Willis, Torrey Holt is still waiting to get in. Big game Holt.
I think Reggie Wayne's in that list as well.
Reggie
There's
Wayne.
heaps of wide receivers, which I think probably a problem with the wide receiver class is like they're all fighting and getting compared to against each other.
And do they also take into account perhaps the changing of the game, like the numbers that the modern day receiver can put up?
Maybe.
Is obviously
You got to remember it's the media dinosaurs voting on this stuff. So
that's true, mate. Maybe a little bit of bias there as well. I have no doubt that Torrey Holt and Reggie Wayne find themselves in the Hall of Fame at one day. It may just be a waiting game for them. The other thing is maybe honouring some of these older blokes before they get a bit too old and can't be there.
This is what James and I said. That with what's coming up, this potentially could have been the last time for a lot of these guys to get a look in. So they've done them a solid. They've done this class of guys who predominantly played in the 90s, before the turn of the century, because there's a lot of guys coming past that are now up for selection.
In terms of guys that are in that list, have you mentioned them?
No, I haven't.
No, not
What's
yet.
up next?
Cam Chancellor, Dwight Freeney, James Harrison, CJ2K, Darrell Reeves, Joe Thomas all become eligible next year.
Yep.
You'd imagine a fair few
crazy.
of those guys are first balloters.
Yeah, Joe Thomas and Reeves definitely. And
James Harrison I think has to. Just based on his wingness, like 2 Super Bowls, and what he did in a few Super Bowls as well. Yeah. He'd be pretty unlucky to miss out first time. It'll be a really interesting class next year. Let's go through some NFL news, the good and with the bad. Now, Sean, our resident Broncos diehard here. Bad news for Tim Patrick. Poor fella did his ACL this week in practice, Tuesday at practice. Did sign a 3-year, $35 million extension last year. This hurts them, although their receiving core is pretty deep this year.
Yeah, and
with Sutton and Judy.
Yes, and Hamler's back from injury from last year. So that's 2 back-to-back LCLs for wide receivers for Denver, because Hamler did his ACL last year in training camp, I believe, as well. So, it's tough. They've got Seth Williams there, who's another big receiver from draft pick from last year, and Washington, who they drafted this year, late picks wide receivers. So they've got some guys there potentially to fill in. But I think it means Sutton, Judy got to take the big load, and then Hamlin as the speed guy can hopefully do a job there.
A small, shifty guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
CJ Hamler. Yeah.
And they've got two tight ends that are more in the receiving than they are blocking tight ends as well. So it means, those 50-odd receptions he's going to get, those, 60, 70-odd targets will just have to be distributed around the other guys. And have to see what that looks like. But yeah, you can't replace Tim Patrick straight away. Kind of led to the chat, maybe, OBJ, etc. is still out there, whether they go potentially get another guy like that to come across. But
and again, it won't be playing the early part of the year with coming back from an ACL himself.
Yeah. So it's, I think it's more wait and see what they've got in the young guys come through preseason, and then maybe reevaluate some of those free agents. But yeah, that's unfortunate. They had another running back, Crockett, who's usually the preseason running back. He blew his ACL on the same day. So. And not any ones. The league's getting a bit banged up at the moment. Monday blew his knee out, corner for the Saints as well. Season done. So yeah, it's one of the things that goes with football and training camp is injuries. And at the moment, a lot of that ends up being knee and leg related, unfortunately.
An interesting story this week. In my main man, we got him hanging up there. Aaron Rodgers, the back-to-back MVP of the league.
Yep.
And this speaks volumes to where we're at as a society, I think.
Acceptance.
Yeah, and podcasts and what people are willing to say.
Yep.
So Aaron Rodgers went on the Aubrey Marcus podcast. I wasn't super familiar with this guy. Did a little bit of research. He's been on Joe Rogan a bunch. He's company on it. I think Rogan is involved with as well. He's into fitness. He's a good looking shredded rooster, and he speaks very articulately. I listened to the podcast, but also
got a lot in common with us. Yeah.
Yeah, shredded, good looking, successful,
speaks well,
strong. He speaks well. He's friends with Aaron Rodgers, and trips in Peru on ayahuasca. Heaps in common. But it was an interesting listen, and Aaron Rodgers, one of the more articulate, thoughtful guys that you'll ever come across in any contact sport. I think is fair. I was listening to part of this in the car with the wife, and she said, "Is this guy a football player?" I said, "Not only is he a football player, he is the two-time defending MVP of the NFL." And she said, "Wow, that's impressive." Definitely not much weak-gutted dog chat in this podcast at all. But yeah, it's very 2022. He has made appearances on Pat McAfee before. Joe Rogan has spoken about his dealings with Aaron Rodgers, but he hasn't been a guest on there. Rodgers hasn't really liked facing the media that much over the last few years.
Well, he's very much been exclusively doing McAfee's podcast, as a review of the games from the weekend. That's really the only big media he does outside of the locker room press conferences.
And there was very little football. There are times that they spoke about football in this, but not in a sense in the way that we would talk about football, more as to what it means to him and what it means to people. But a lot of what goes on between the ears. For Aaron Rodgers, spoke about self-love and his mental health and the breakup with Danica Patrick.
Yep.
And
he's been through a few breakups, unfortunately, for old Roger.
Indeed, and spoke openly about going to Peru and doing ayahuasca and tripping balls, which is pretty crazy for a professional athlete on $40-odd million a year contract.
It's the only way he's going to imagine to have decent wide receivers on his team. So
he's seeing 30,000 of them.
He's just Hopkins,
Devontae still here. They drafted me receivers. There's an easy joke there to be made, isn't there? But as a Packers fan, also wouldn't mind a little bit of a better receiving core. But both of them talking openly about the psychedelic experience. Guys that are post their career or don't have, the mainstream media to deal with, going out and doing this. I can see it. It is strange for
just use McAfee again as a comparison. post-career, with that, and he's very open about, during his playing career, but it's all post, edibles, etc., etc. So,
I think it's where we're at as a society. Yep. As a society, people are a little
very
bit less judgmental about stuff that may or may not be legal. Obviously, it's in Peru. It's legal. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah, as long as he's not trying to take it across borders, etc. Take things into Russia. Then he'll be all right.
Poor Brittany Griner. Yeah. Poor Brittany Griner. We're not talking NBA today because there hasn't been a lot of news, but she has been sentenced to 9 years for THC oil. Cannabis oil, nothing that actually even gets you high. It's just good for her joints. You could probably have a whole podcast discussing that, but now it becomes a political pawn.
Unfortunately,
there. So interesting listen if you're into that kind of stuff. I'd recommend it.
He did get asked during the week during our training camp because Tom Brady's birthday. Would he play to 45? His answer was no. Happy birthday, Tom.
38, Rogers. So he'd have to play another 7 seasons. Yeah, it's pretty wild. To think about. I was watching Rodney Harrison on the coverage of the Jags-Raiders game and thinking, he mustn't be that much older than Tom. No, he's 49. He's 4 years older. Yeah. That man has been retired a long time. It's he's the GOAT for a reason.
Well, we talked to Willis McGahee before. He's 40 and been retired for 6 or 7 years.
The Calvin Johnson chat about how he was first year straight into the Hall of Fame last year. Yeah. He debuted, retired, had 5 years out of the league, and went into the Hall of Fame during Tom Brady's career. Ridiculous kind of shit.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the Dolphins are in trouble this week. It kind of stemmed from what started as the Brian Flores investigation into racial injustice and him being treated poorly, and then they had a sort of secondary finding was that there was impermissible communication with Tom Brady from the Dolphins. Sean, did you follow much of this, and what was your take from it?
Well, the investigation kicked off from the tanking comments. So they were trying to figure out whether they, had initially tanked, been asked to tank, lose games. So
was this obviously an investigation around everything as well? Because I'd read that Flores. Had been an investigation into him as well.
Yeah, well, he was the coach at the Dolphins at the time, and he was saying, they asked this, as part of the tanking thing. And then remember, Hugh Jackson came out and said, I was asked the same. And
then there was the interview that Flores had with someone else where the race thing came into it.
Yes, and Belichick, sending out
at the Giants?
The Giants, and Belichick sending out the text to congratulate the wrong dude. So
my mistake. My wires get crossed here too.
Yeah. But anyway, besides all that didn't matter in this context. Is what happened through the investigation. They found that the Dolphins had been tampering with Tom Brady. They had initially, when he'd left the Patriots, trying to get him involved, come across, but then he picked Tampa. But then when he retired, was leading up to he was still playing for Tampa, leading up to his initial retirement. Whether he'd want to come and play for the Dolphins again. So. Early contact with Tom Brady to see what would happen, see whether he'd come across. So, the rules have the guidelines around free agents and people under contract and legal tampering. They're very strict on this, unlike the Australian football codes. So it has cost them a first round pick in the upcoming draft and a third round selection in the following draft. And the owner has also been suspended through to 2022. So I don't know what that means for him. It means more golf potentially, and fined
horrible.
Fine 1.5 mil for potential being a billionaire. Chump change. So overall, a bit interesting.
So when they say tampering, why were they not allowed to communicate with Tom Brady? Do we know why it was deemed impermissible?
It's because he's not technically a free agent. So, they have the March date of, when free agents open, and they have the 1 day earlier for legal tampering.
Okay.
If you're doing that before that, which I think they caught them talking in November, December, then you're essentially breaching that. You're having conversations about moving when the window for that hasn't opened. So they don't get into where the NRL is, where they're having contract talks about you're currently playing for this team, and then you then sign for another team, and then next year, the NFL's been very strict about trying to eliminate that, so that they all that conversation happens after the season. So you as a fan know that these guys are going to play for my team for the entire year unless they get traded. But
maybe the NRL needs to bring something in down under of the like. Thank you there, Path, in the comments. Sean Payton also involved in this as well.
Yeah, so that was as potential head coach to come across and create that duo there for the two of them. So yeah. Be interesting how that works for Dolphins. Losing a first-round selection, and depending how they go this year, that could be anywhere from let's just say a mid-teens kind of pick. That's a big pick to lose.
You think they're in the AFC East, the Bills probably win that pretty comfortably, and then it'll be them and the Pats, you'd imagine, kind of vying for maybe the wild card spot there.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton joins the Broncos ownership group. Do you know how much? Has anything been...
Tiny percentage, I'd say. Yeah. Considering what they paid for it. They paid almost just under $5 billion for this. I don't think... Lewis has made good money.
He's made good coin. Yeah, he's made good coin. Maybe not that good coin.
It's more... and this was the same thing that Miami did. Low percentage, like 1%, let's say, buys into that. Maybe not even that much, but then he can come in and do the media. He's big name. F1. We talked about F1 as a sport growing across the world. That's a big name to then potentially push. Especially I've seen Roscoe, which is Lewis Hamilton's bulldog, wearing Broncos gear over Instagram. He's got hundreds of. Yeah, he's got all the followers. Like it's spreading Denver and NFL into bigger markets.
It's a branding thing, rather than him actually having any kind of financial power.
Yeah. He's not sitting on the board making decisions, etc.
Swinging axes.
Yeah, he'll probably get equivalent of his share in dividends. So it's like NFL teams are licensed to print money, so it's not whatever he invests, he's probably going to get a return on. But yeah, it also helps being for them as a big. Media face, big name dude. And Lewis had been in chat with the Chelsea, like whether he'd be part of that Chelsea deal. So obviously he's been in the market to do this himself, to be involved in some sports clubs, because he himself is probably getting close to retirement too, and that's maybe what he can then move into, is being a bit of a face for various sporting organisations.
And we've seen the NFL very big in trying to grow the game in the UK recently as well, with the games in London and that partnership. So maybe having a big British face as well there, that maybe plays into it.
Yeah, and the English, they love Lewis, well, especially in England, because he's dominated F1 for a decade. For a long time, they're very happy. It's one of the few things the English do win, so they'll take it.
Shots fired here from Sean. The Ashes, 4.5 to zip. A few Steve Smith wickets away from being 5-zip at the England cricket team. Hollywood Brown caught speeding 120 miles per hour. That's about 180 k's an hour off the top of the dome for our Australian / British / rest of the world listeners. Actually, no, I think they might do miles.
They do miles
in the UK. Which
I don't know.
I think they do. Anyways, it's a lot faster than what the speed limit would have been.
Yeah,
and can't condone speeding, but especially after the Henry Ruggs shit last year.
Well, I think that's didn't learn the lesson essentially. I think it ends up being definitely a criminal charge, but because it was. I think it was also technically through a school zone as well. So it was like it was a lot more over the posted speed limit, and then it was a lot more over whatever the zone. Like obviously he was flying along, and there was video came out during the week in LA. The car just went through a red light doing this kind of speed, and 8 people died.
8?
Yeah, both cars was essentially just flames. So we talked about Henry Ruggs, etc., and what happened in that situation. It's like, interesting what will happen with this, because Arizona will probably hoping to have Brown play for them.
Of course, with D-Hop being out those first 6 weeks. But that's why they brought him across.
Yeah, but criminal charge. I'm not sure. There's criminal charge. There's another word. It was like federal. I don't think it was federal, but it was like that.
Felony.
Actual penalty. So it was a higher tier.
Yeah, because over there there's felonies and then there's misdemeanors. I think from my understanding of the US legal system from watching TV shows,
he's going to be in trouble. And after what happened last next year. Would not surprise me if Rogers, if he's getting some of his power back, will step in here and you'll get a suspension for Brown as well.
So do you think the NFL,
I think so. They've got to after what happened last year, I would think. You've got to send a message.
Felony's worst misdemeanor underneath.
Yeah.
Let's go. US lawyers over here. Let's go. The judge. Good show. Brian Cranston.
Yeah.
You seen that shit on that? He's a judge. His son gets involved in some dodgy shit.
It's one thing with the NFL.
Sean's like, I haven't seen it. Fuck off.
No. I'm just thinking about NFL. It was like one thing about for being a fan of the NFL is you do get partially a law degree with following some of what happens with the off the field incidents. So, Anyway, anything there from you, James?
County records show that he was accused of travelling at over 85 miles per hour on a section of highway that was posted at 65.
Okay.
But reports are that he was travelling up to 126 miles per hour.
Reports, but
that's when he was caught.
Busted was 85.
Yeah. Criminal speeding is a class 3 misdemeanor. 30 days in jail.
Not a felony.
Not a felony. A felony.
Felony.
Wow. Felony.
Yeah.
Do you need a hug or something? I know you're getting married soon, but come on, man.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, keep going.
I don't know what's going on. I don't even know what I was saying. 30 days in jail, a year of unsupervised probation, and a $500 fine.
30 days would mean he'd miss week 1.
Yeah, interesting. He doesn't go to jail over this.
No, I wouldn't say so. But it's, where I think it'd be more a Roger thing, whether he steps in and goes, what happened last year was, Ruggs is essentially gone now from the league and facing big time prison time. Didn't learn your lesson. He's a big fine, and you can miss the first half of the year. Would not surprise me.
We'll follow that as it unfolds. Now, without having
just before we get on, I just want to go back to the Dolphins real quick. So they forfeit their first round selection.
Yep.
Despite that, they will probably still have a first round selection anyway because they traded with San Fran a couple of years ago. So they'll get
that's technically San Fran's pick, but yes.
Technically, but they'll still have a first round pick, so they essentially lose nothing.
So they would have had 2 first rounds.
They would have had 2 first.
So does that mean that round will only have 31 picks?
I don't know.
Or it'll be 32 and they just get skipped over?
Maybe.
Wonder how they'd do it.
I don't know.
Watch our draft show next year and find out.
Get a day off work, you bum. You weak-gutted dog. All right, NFL fantasy.
Yes.
It's nice to remove ourselves from the perils of discussing real life and go to fantasy football. Obviously, for those that have been following the show over the last few weeks, we've covered a few other positions. So, Sean, you did your quarterbacks last week.
Yeah,
the
rookies and
rookies week one of the NFL fantasy files here on the Esky.
Yep.
Now, you're not going to touch on the rookies.
Running backs.
I
think we've covered them. Go check that video, link in the description. Have a look at that. And also we won't go over every single running back in this because we potentially talk about 100. There is a lot on the list. Yes, I think I've kind of broken it down into the first kind of rounds. Some guys probably middle tier to look at and a few others floating in there, plus handcuffs. So
4 tiers?
I haven't broken it down into tiers.
Exact tiers, but let's...
Yeah, just kind of loosely where they fall. So,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we kick off. Let's talk about first round running backs, because unless you're doing a zero RB strategy and you're going to pick a bunch of rookies in the middle, you're probably trying to get at least one running back in the first or second round.
Yep.
So for me, I usually follow the rule of I have like a self-imposed rule of health in the first round, generally to do with the fact your first rounder is, I like to think you're not going to win your league making first round pick, but you can definitely lose it making the wrong first round pick. And you really want to take a guy that's low risk and is going to play the full season, especially a running back, have over 1,000 yards, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of an angle you're going for.
I suppose in a 10-team league, more so than any other position, your running backs and wide receivers have a huge drop off after your first round or two.
Especially running back.
Especially running back.
Especially running back. I feel like the receiver depth, you can kind of, if someone goes, you might be able to, your wide receiver 2 or your wide receiver 3, you might be able to take the load. If you lose your RB1, you're up shit creek.
Yeah, because you have to play 2, and they are limited. We'll get to the second round in a minute, but I think there's a bit more there's value this year in the second round than there has been in the past. But we'll get to that in a second. So first rounders, you're looking probably at Jonathan Taylor, Chris McCaffrey, Eckler, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, and probably Joe Mixon being as your first rounders there. So of that lot, for me, I've got it listed there. CMC, I wouldn't draft CMC.
Injury concerns,
like
but the ceiling is
so
high.
But also, if you've he might have won you a league 3 years ago, but the last 2 years you've probably finished in the bottom ranks. He's a big out. So make him someone else's problem is what I'm getting at. Let someone else pick CMC and see whether he can rebound. I generally, if you come off an injured year, back to my health rule, I like to see a year out of that running back, go back to where you are. Actually, not on that list, but I sure was meant to add was probably Dalvin Cook.
I was going to ask about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I think in the list I had, for whatever reason, he was missing. But Dalvin Cook should definitely be in there. But you take Dalvin Cook, had a great rookie year, got hurt. Give him a year to then come back, then had a really great year. Cool, he's back on my list. I'll definitely pick Dalvin Cook. But when I think about that, McCaffrey, maybe not so much. Then you got to talk about the king. Almost 1,000 yards before he got hurt, but then also
in 8 rounds.
Yeah, bad ankle injury, and especially leg. If it's a season-ending injury to say shoulders for a running back, I'm not too worried about. But if it's leg injuries to a guy that makes all his money running the ball, that has more concern for me. So now when we're looking at Henry, I'm not picking Henry this year.
Interesting.
For that reason, I'd give him a year, see if he gets back to King Henry status, and then think about it next year. I'd wait on him a year.
Who are you more afraid of drafting, CMC or Derrick Henry?
CMC.
I'd agree.
Yeah, of the two, if they're both, you're looking at both of them, it's like CMC is probably the more risky one, just because his size at that position is more worrisome. Derrick Henry, though, bigger, he's going to take those licks. But then also he's a big dude playing on a reconstructed ankle. So
and completely different running backs as well in the way that they operate.
Yes.
Obviously, CMC catches the ball a lot out of the backfield, going to give you heaps in a PPR league, but has to stay healthy and get those receptions and those shifty yards.
Yeah. Whereas Henry's probably got on pace for 2K every year.
Yep.
So that's kind of what you're looking at. But, they're too risky for me. That's why I think if you got Harris, Taylor, in there, I'd be picking those ones, those two, and Cook. Those three I'd be focusing on more. I think Joe Mixon is sneaky good value at the end of the first round, just considering the team he plays in. He's got really no one behind him to push him. They've got a better offensive line this year. And
who they bring in? Do you know off the top of your head? I might be able to chase
they drafted some bloke and they signed someone else, but I can't remember the names. Offensive lineman. Can't remember.
Yeah, poor O-lineman. I'm much the same. I know you're elite guys, and then outside of that, I'm kind of
But the other benefit for Mixon is he plays on third down, and they do like to throw the rock around. So he's going to get targets. He's going to get catches. So I think Mixon's sneaky good value. The other one there that I'm probably not drafting is Austin Eckler. So,
and why is that?
Injury concerns. Again, he misses a lot of games throughout the season, so last year and the year before. But then they've also added Spiller to that team, and they've been talking him up like crazy. So I wonder what that kind of role means. That will they manage Eckler to try and get him through a full year? So that's my concern. Okay. There's a first rounder. If he sneaks, any of those three guys sneak out of the first round in the second, that means you've probably got another first round pick. You've made a pick, and if they're your RB2, then these concerns start to disappear because they're not now your core dude that you need to worry about. Yeah, exactly. So,
is Jonathan Taylor the consensus number one, and should he be the consensus number one?
I believe so. If you look at
every draft
average rankings, Jonathan is number one on that.
Should he be?
I think so as well. After last season, it was Derrick Henry's year. Before that, he had was ahead of Jonathan for a very long time. And Nick Chubb was a big third to that. Which is probably a great segue there because we get into the second rounders.
Second tier, if you will.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot more depth than previous years. Usually you go in a second round and you're like, all the good bell cows are gone. But then you've got potentially Swift, Jones, Chubb, Javonte Williams, and then Alvin Kamara in here going in that second round in that tier. And I think of those, Kamara is probably got sneaky good value. He had a down year, of course, with no quarterback. He's got his lad in Winston back, and I think, as long as Jameis is healthy, I think Kamara is going to have an excellent year.
I agree.
He's great value there if he sneaks into your second round. The other four, the reason, three of those have partners is probably their issue. So Swift, he's got Jamal Williams as his running mate, but Swift, by all accounts, is going to take all the ball. But his concern for me is also, again, back to injuries. Has had some struggles with concussions in the past, and is not the biggest running back in the world. But he follows his namesake very well. He's very
swift.
Swift
by name,
shifty.
Swift by nature. I have massive concerns in drafting him as your RB1, I reckon.
Yeah. So in a second round, if you've already got one, then, if
he's your RB2, no worries.
No
dramas.
There.
But if you've got to base your fantasy team off DeAndre Swift, I'd have concerns.
Yeah, I agree. So that's kind of why he's going in the second. So then there's other three, Jones, Chubb, and Williams, all have partners. So Aaron Jones has Quadzilla,
AJ Dillon, and as a resident Packers fan here, been following this pretty closely. I think the handoff split might be 50-50.
Yeah, which is okay, you getting to your concern there, which is probably the benefit then, say for Williams, because him and Melvin Gordon there, it sounds like they were 50-50 last year. Exactly 50-50.
Yep.
I think it was 231 to 231 carries. They were straight down the line, 50-50. But by all accounts, it sounds like coming out of camp, it's going to potentially be more like 70-30 in Williams' favour. So I think Williams there as a second rounder is an excellent, especially towards the back end of that second round, is an excellent pick. Nick Chubb there, I think, is a bit hard done by because he's got Hunt there with doing a holding in it currently, trying to get a new contract. But see what happens.
And you might not know this off the top of your head, is there any chance that Hunt doesn't get this contract and it is the Nick Chubb show this year, or are we still going to see a little bit of a committee there?
Might have to go back to the quarterback situation. Because if there's no Watson, they're going to pound the absolute shit out of this football. So, which they'd want Hunt there to take the load off.
If it's Jacoby fucking Brissett.
Yeah. If they're going to share 500 carries between the running backs, you probably want a 300, 200 split there. But, but even having that, Nick Chubb was, when I said it before, he was still third to Taylor and to Henry before. I think he missed 3 games towards the end of the year.
Ernest Johnson enters the chat.
Yeah, exactly. He missed the game there, and Hunt was suspended, I think, for that game. So, I think Chubb is excellent value there. Chubb and Kamara, I think, excellent value. Same as with second rounders for this year. There is definitely guys you can potentially go in there, and if you want to take
receiver first, you'd be happy with one of those guys in a Kamara perhaps, or a Chubb being a RB1?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're going to then target a bunch of rookies, running backs in the mid-tier rounds.
I know we'll talk about receivers next week, but who are the receivers that you'd be happy to take in round 1 and then go with one of these guys?
Well, you're going to have
Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, exactly. Who else was fighting around in that list? Diggs as well, like
Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase could definitely fit in there. I think people are sleeping on T. Higgins a little bit over there too. And we'll get to that next week.
Also not taking him in the first round.
No, not in the first round. We'll get to that next week though. We'll talk about that next week.
That kind of draft strategy concerns me. I think with the receiver depth, and I mentioned it before, in the league these days, your running backs are a dime a dozen. I think you have to go running back in round 1. But,
to do a zero running back strategy is high risk potential. It's high risk, and you maybe get reward by picking up a bunch of the rookies, and they go out there and have an excellent season. But if you're trying to be competitive on a more consistent basis, try to eliminate that risk. So you want to take the guys, especially in the top end of your draft, that are low risk to have had a history of good health, not coming off an injury, especially to the leg region, and it can do a job for you in those early rounds.
Who's your next tier here?
So then I wanted to talk about Connor, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. they're all kind of going in this range. These three I don't really love just because I don't love their offensive line situations.
Okay.
The other guys above them all have better offensive lines. The guys going in the similar range that I think you should pay attention to is Mitchell coming from the 49ers.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, and Cam Akers there at the Rams. Both have probably better offensive line situations than those over three and potentially don't really have much competition. Like Akers will have Henderson, but Akers has clearly outplayed Henderson in the past.
It's a Cam Akers show. I think that's
and he had a kind of slowish start into the final series, but also he's coming off an Achilles injury, playing in the finals against the best teams in the league. So, he's not going to go for 4 yards a carry as an average. But get him full season under his belt, I think he could definitely look really good. And biggest issue there is the left tackle. But overall, that's still a Super Bowl winning team.
Yep.
He's going to get a lot of opportunities there.
I'd be bullish on Cam Akers personally.
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell and the 49ers, I'm just not I'm not convinced in that 49er running backs forever. They seem to be committees. It seems to be getting consistency seems to be an issue. With if Trey Lance is the guy, how does that? They probably run the ball more.
But that's the thing. So with Lance coming in, maybe they run the ball more.
And
with Kyler, the Shanahan
Debo
system,
there.
they run the ball more. Yeah, what situations that mean for
Debo.
Debo? But of those, Mitchell, coming from last year, was clear cut the best running back they had on that squad. So and they've got a good offensive line. Trent Williams over there answers the chat. So like they're definitely going to run the ball and run the ball well in that Shanahan system. So I'd probably take Akers over Mitchell if I had a choice on the two of them. But in this round, I picked those two over those other three that I mentioned there. Like, the Raiders' offensive line's not great. Saquon, you got to see what he's going to be like.
The last 2 years have been massive letdowns for Saquon Barkley.
And we talked about that Cards team, what that's going to be now with no wide receivers potentially to start the season. What that means for Connor, and is Connor going to be the bell cow, can play the whole season without Chase there as his running mate. So.
And can he reproduce what he did last year? Pretty freakish year. What do you have? 16 rushing touchdowns. Was just finding the end zone at will for him to back that up this year. Pretty unlikely.
Could be a challenge. So then the next lot, Etienne, Dobbins, and our boy Zeke. And Zeke kind of falling down here.
Yeah, it's very low to have Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, and in this kind of grouping, as a general statement, I'm kind of fading a lot of them, as in I'd be looking elsewhere. Main reason for Montgomery is the team, like the Bears team.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a shit show. I want to see what that team. I couldn't rely on Montgomery, and there's been chat that Herbert over there is as the backup to him is potentially going to play more because they'll be in more of those passing down situations and spread the ball around a little bit more. So
I still think I don't buy into that. I don't see Khalil Herbert score points in David Montgomery, if you want to put it that way.
Well,
taking away points, I guess, is the big thing.
Taking away points, sure.
Oh, and the rumours of potentially stealing the job as well. But
I don't buy into it. Can you have a look at Khalil Herbert? What his dimensions are? He's a scat back. He's a small, receiving threat, shifty good dude. But he's not going to be a bell cow.
But I think that's probably what the media is talking about. It was like, you've got the RBs playing quarterbacks
in Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I'm just not a huge fan of Montgomery. I think in this space, there's better options.
Such as?
There's a lot of rookies going in this space. So some of those guys can kind of float in here, and I'd be focusing on a bit of them than these guys. This room, in this space where they're going, this is where you're focusing on wide receivers anyway. So,
yeah, interesting. But that's a tactic thing.
It's a tactic thing. It's more strategy.
So say you've already got a wide receiver and backs. Is there anyone that stands out to you? Travis Etienne, he's unproven.
Yeah.
Does James Robinson, and him
into the chat.
Do they kind of share the load there?
Plus on that Jags team, etc. Like
J.K. Dobbins coming back from injury. We've spoken about how much you want to be wary of guys coming back from injury.
And that'll be interesting what the Ravens team looks like because, yes, Dobbins and Gus Edwards both coming off injuries, both still in that team. So I think of this list, I like Dobbins probably – I like Dobbins the most from a young perspective. aging running backs usually don't get great returns, unfortunately.
It's a short shelf life, isn't it?
Yes.
For running backs.
Yes, and that's kind of where Zeke enters that conversation as well, because Tony Pollard's essentially kind of outplayed him last year, and kind of what that dynamic looks like going forward. These guys all kind of scare me if you're trying to pick running backs in those rounds 4, 5, 6 kind of range. I'm just not a huge fan of a lot of these. Zeke's going in the third, fourth round in the 30s as an average draft position. It's just not loving them. And I think as a third, fourth round, that's where you're probably deep to looking at wide receivers and potentially, your first lot of tight ends going. Some others that I kind of thought were interesting throughout the list. Damian Harris kind of ends up going in about the 60s, which is interesting because he's probably, the key starter there at New England. There's not really anything behind him.
I like Damian Harris here. I think that it's a good
and the way
running back that you've
and the way that team's built, they've got not a great receiving option. So I think Parker's been playing really well in training camp for them, coming across from the Dolphins. But then they've got Myers as well. They don't have great wide receiver options. Belichick and that system now with no Josh McDaniels, whether they focus more on the run game.
They will, and they showed it last year. Mac Jones had a reasonable year, but they were probably run first. And
Harris was good last year.
Ramondre Stevenson will get the ball a little bit. They did draft Pierre Strong, so how much he plays into it. James White always is good catching the ball, but I don't mind Damian Harris here. If you want to take him in the fourth round, I think he could do some things for you.
Yeah, well, he's gone in the 60s, which is like an average sixth or seventh round pick. Yeah. So, way to skip over those previous four guys I talked about.
If you get him in the 6th round, it's a fucking steal.
Yeah,
I reckon it's a steal. I'd be willing to go 4th round. Anything earlier than that, I'm not convinced there for Damian Harris. He's an interesting one. Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, where do you put him?
Last year, you can check the tape. I was
it's not a thing, and then
I was like, it's not a thing. He's had a big game. All right, it's not going to last. He's not a running back. He's a gadget man, and Mr. Gadget, he finished top 10 for running backs last year in fantasy football. Can he do it again this year?
He's not getting a lot of love. He's currently going in the 80s, which is 8th, 9th round pick, depending on your league. So, yeah, that's. It's whether you buy into what the Falcons could be. And if you look at the Falcons...
Shit is what I think they'll be.
Well, yes. Besides being a very average team, you look at the weapons they've got. They've got nothing. They've got the 2 wide receivers. Well, actually... Sorry, one wide receiver, 1 tight end. They've got London and Pitts.
Yep.
That's really their only options. And then they've got the rookie behind Patterson, which is...
Tyler Allegier.
Yeah, we talked about.
Whose name we still maybe can't pronounce.
Maybe he's still getting wrong.
Watch some highlights of it.
Yeah, so outside of the 2 that will play, Patterson's probably going to get a lot of touches, a lot of carries, and at that kind of value in those 8th and 9th round picks. So that's... you could take that with potentially getting a starting running back in the squad. So,
so you don't mind taking Cordero?
No, not that kind of value.
Yeah, you reckon there's a bit of value there.
Especially if he just sits on your bench and you put him playing as a flex occasionally. Yeah, and see how he starts the year. If they're still using him where he's getting 20 carries a game kind of thing through catches and runs, he's going to do, get you a solid 10, 15 points every week without issue. And that consistency is really important.
Seattle, what's the go? So Chris Carson announced his retirement.
Yeah.
Only 6 years in the league, something like that?
5
maybe.
It's short career.
Not many. Not many. But that does make the running back room there in Seattle pretty interesting, especially if Geno Smith is under center. You'd imagine they'll be run first.
Yeah. Either way, if Locke is quarterback, whoever the quarterback is.
Whoever it is, yeah.
Unfortunately for DK, who got paid, and Lockett there, they're most likely going to be a run team until they get a new quarterback. So... maybe Jimmy G answers the chat. But anyway, where does Penny kind of fit? Because he's RB1. He's got no direct running mate in Carson. But then we talked to Walker a little bit in the rookie room with those 2 ahead of him now. Both of them probably get a bit of a bump, I'd say. He's currently going in those 80s there with Patterson. But, he had a great year to end the year. The big risk is, can he play a full year or will he get injured? having had a bunch of injuries throughout his early career as well. I'd say Walker probably better off overall, but Penny still there is still not a bad option, especially if you missed out on some of those earlier running backs for a guy that's probably going to get 20 carries to start the year, as is RB1.
And James Robinson, we kind of already spoke about. Travis Etienne.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's kind of the forgotten man. All the chat out of Jags training campers, the Lawrence and Etienne connection because they're connecting dots, etc. But does that mean that's going to come to fruition? Because we saw last year that Robinson was very much in the doghouse for a long time until Meyer kind of got kicked in the can, and then they unleashed him, and he was excellent. Of course, coming off. I don't want to say Achilles, but he's coming off a lower leg injury.
It was Achilles, I'm pretty sure. I think it was Achilles.
Yeah,
Travis Etienne.
Lower leg injury.
Pre-season.
But
I like how you just like lower leg, like it's all thing. Yeah, lower leg.
Yeah, below the knee somewhere.
Grade 1 MCL, that's it, same shit.
Yeah, below the knee somewhere. But either way, he's back at training camp. He's in that conversation, which is kind of the reason why I don't like Etienne as well, because Robertson can definitely do a job for them there, and I wonder what that split would be. So as a guy who's going in the hundreds currently, but you can take that risk on him going in that 10th or 11th round. You could take a risk on him there with the potential that, maybe he outplays Etienne and takes the starting job.
It wasn't Achilles. Liz Frank
there you go.
For Etienne.
Lower leg injury.
Lower leg in the foot. Yes. Dr. Sean strikes again. Yes, it was part of his anatomy that he injured.
He injured a body part.
Also not an injury that's easy to come back from, but he's also very young.
By all accounts training, and so we'll have to see what that looks like as the season goes on. So they're the interesting ones. To finish off, let's talk about some handcuffs. What did I pick out? 5. Again, some guys I thought was interesting. All of these are going after the 10th round besides Michael Carter, who's going in the 9th.
They expect Breece Hall to get the starting job there?
Let's talk about that, because I think that's probably, I think Carter's criminally undervalued there as a 9th round pick, because that team, they will share the ball, and it's probably going to be a 50-50 split there. Because they also got Coleman in that room. They will rotate those running backs a lot. And Carter, I think, could also get the first look as the incumbent there, and they work Hall into it. So I think they're probably going to have a very close split on carries. I don't think it's going to be the 1,200 rushing yards that people are kind of trying to say that Hall is going to get this year. I just don't see it quite yet. Maybe he'll get to that total on lesser carries. But at the moment, I just don't see how you can completely write off Michael Carter like they have.
So Carter is your favourite of the handcuffs?
I do really like Carter, especially in that 9th round, just because of the handcuffs. Like, you look at that list, he's the established one. That's the other thing. Like, if Hall falters and or can't really get a start there, as rookie running backs traditionally, not don't have the greatest impact. You kind of, especially when they start, like you start on week 1, they kind of hit that wall. But if they, get worked into the system and then come week 6 and, then they get going, and, that's where you get all your reward from a rookie running back. I think Carter is an established guy with only a rookie kind of trying to steal his job in front of him. I love Michael Carter as a 9th round pick. So then the other ones, we had Foreman for CMC, for mentions talk before towards the end of the year, taking over from Hubba Bubba.
Chubba Hubbard.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard.
So
Hubba Bubba.
That's one, of course.
Bubba Gump.
We talked about Herbert as well there for Montgomery. There's been chat in Bears training camp. We've mentioned Rojo is an interesting one coming across from Tampa Bay for
Chiefs.
For the Chiefs. So there's definitely a path for him into starting kind of role. Didn't show enough probably with Tampa. We'll see what he could do there for Chiefs. But I'd say not a draft thing. Maybe watch out for him. And then the interesting one I had was another rookie that we maybe didn't talk enough about was Brian Robinson going
at
over
Washington?
there to Washington to the Commanders. Potentially going to be Gibson's backup. Like if you're a Gibson fan and
which you are,
Yes, which I definitely have been, and we hate JD McKissick over there to stealing receptions.
The old vulture.
But Robinson, with his size, like he's a huge running back, so over 6 foot, 220 pounds. He could potentially take some of those harder runs off Gibson, to try and share the load. And if Gibson goes down with, misses a couple of weeks through injury like he had been over the last couple of seasons, maybe he gets into that conversation, starts taking that role over, and the third down still sticks with JD. I can. There's a path there again for him to starting minutes, starting time there, which also scares me about Gibson's. We haven't talked about Gibson, but I kind of. I think Gibson's kind of slid down the rounds for potential drafting because he's got those two other running backs I just mentioned behind him, and with all likelihood they will share the load across the lot of them.
In summary, Sean's fantasy files for running backs. JT, Jonathan Taylor, probably consensus number one, as he should be. Watch out for injuries in guys that are coming off injuries, like your CMCs, like your Derrick Henrys. Does Austin Eckler have some work to do with the bringing in of Spiller?
Yep.
Second round, if you can pick up a Nick Chubb or an Alvin Kamara, I think you've done well there. Well. Then the field really kind of opens up. Yep. And then, look at your handcuffs. If you are drafting early, consider going handcuffs in those later rounds. For God forbid something to happen to your starting running back, and
still someone else's handcuff. Like it's
strategy.
Strategy.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Play the percentages a little bit.
That concludes our NFL chat for this week. We'll do wide receivers next week, and it's the first round of the preseason proper. So we'll get to see how a lot of teams are going out there. Obviously, we don't expect to see too many starters, but we will probably see a lot of rookies, a lot of guys fighting for positions. It's an interesting time of the year. A lot of people hate the NFL preseason. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
I just hate it for the injuries.
Well, the injuries for one, and it probably is a touch too long. A touch too long.
Yeah, but they're interesting that Hall of Fame game. I think they said 5.7 million people viewed it, watched it.
Pretty crazy.
Which is a great number. It's just like, football is undefeated. So NFL is back, baby. Let's ride.
And that brings us to the On The Esky final round. Ding, ding. Probably a shorter final round this week with not a lot happening in the fighting and motorsports world. A big announcement with Israel Adesanya confirmed taking on Alex Pereira for UFC 281 at Madison Square Garden. Pereira was pretty much fast-tracked to come and fight the champ.
Storylines, etc.
Has beaten him twice in kickboxing. Obviously, MMA is a different sport.
Beat him 2017, I believe.
Yeah, and we spoke about it. Once was a knockout and once decision in the kickboxing arena. But Izzy is arguably the middleweight GOAT. Arguably. Don't get too angry at me, but definitely a good argument. And that one has been confirmed for UFC 281. Monks, have we got a date there, please, on UFC 281? It's the only fight announced, is it not?
Yes, it's the first one.
First one. It is November the 12th.
Let's go. That's not far away. That's not that far away at all. Obviously, a lot of people had this fight happening. They'd spoken some shit at that last UFC, both coming off big wins. And can anyone push the last style bender? If anyone could, it's probably the guy that's got that mental victory over him, at least from beating him a couple of times in kickboxing.
100%,
What do you think about this fight? Exciting, obviously. Do you see Izzy getting dethroned?
We'll have to see what sort of fight it is, whether it's a kickboxing fight or not. I mean, that's probably where it is. And we've seen.
Way to put your balls on the table there, Sean.
Yeah, well, it's we've seen Pereira's power. Like he's very strong.
Knockout artist, one of the best strikers in the world.
Yeah, but the question is, would Izzy go different? It is a mixed martial arts fight. Does he try to push and beat Pereira in a kickboxing fight, or does he go, I've got more tools and more weapons than you now?
It would be remiss of him to try to beat him in a kickboxing fight, given the record.
You think so? But stranger things happen.
I would not like to say that to Israel on his face.
What else could Izzy bring to the fight, though?
Shoot for a takedown. Finishing with a submission. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a
definitely not something that we've seen in his game.
No, of course not.
Definitely not something we've seen in
but
his game.
Also, I've never seen him struggle with any of that either.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, it's whereas I think in one of Perez's fights he was definitely clearly out wrestled, and then of course he started every round standing up, and then he got the finish on the restart. So that's the extra tools you've got in your game as part of this. And as the middleweight world, as a champion, would Israel, go into his bag of tricks and pull a few things out?
I like it. That fight in itself is intriguing. It'll be very interesting to see who else fills out that card. I'm sure the coming weeks we'll get a few more announcements there.
It could be a pretty stacked card.
Yeah, you'd think so. That time of the year, Madison Square Garden, one of the world homes of sports entertainment. Looking forward to that one indeed. There was a UFC event today on ESPN. Should we talk quickly about that?
Yeah.
Did anyone catch it?
No, we didn't.
Not really. Just
the results.
Usman knockout.
Yeah, we mentioned Muhammad Usman winning his, and then Santos, I think, got knocked out by Hill in this one. Yeah,
Jamar Hill knocked out Thiago Santos. They did do a 5-round fight there. And Jeff Neal gets Vicente Luque in the welterweight division.
Then we mentioned Muhammad Usman. They were probably the main ones of this card.
Indeed. Not a massive fight card there in terms of names. Unless you're a real diehard. Next week we see Chito Vera taking on Dominic Cruz in bantamweight. And then how long have we got till UFC 278? It is August 20. So two weeks today. Not that far off for Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards too. There we go. Paulo Costa, Jose Aldo. There's a few cool
so
names.
I think they rebooked that Costa and Rockhold fight. That was meant to be on last week's pay-per-view.
Okay, yeah.
So that's probably that pay-per-view was a little weak because it was missing that one.
All right, I'm with you.
So Pedro is coming back in.
Yeah, Tyson Pedro
last
versus Harry Hunsucker. Hunsucker, I barely know her. Tyson Pedro has not. He fought once this year, and then before 4 years off.
That's right.
4 years off. Not a heap going on in the UFC world, for moderate fans like ourselves, I suppose. But looking forward definitely to that 278 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, agree. F1?
F1. Wow.
So coming off the Hungary... That wasn't too bad, actually. It's better than the siren. Coming off the Hungary Grand Prix and moving into the summer break, Max Verstappen did win that race, starting from 10th with a great tyre strategy. Ferrari shit the bed again. There had been some rumours floating around that the Ferrari boss potentially might get the sack during the summer.
Really?
I don't think it'll happen, but the fact that they keep fucking up their tyre strategy, going to hard tyres on a lot of them. It was actually an interesting race where a lot of them went to the hard tyres, which actually were very, very poor for a race pace. But they got forced into them, Ferrari, but they maybe should have stuck to their guns a little bit more instead of panic, which has been Ferrari's issue. I think they panicked in this one. And ended up costing them. And then the Mercedes ended up second, third. Hamilton was second, second finish for him in a row. Second time they were 2 and 3 for him and Russell. Mercedes coming. I think they probably will take Ferrari in the constructors. Don't think they'll catch Red Bull, but we'll see depending on how Perez goes, I guess. And if that's the... and then I think they're too far away in the drivers. Still a long season to go, but I think they'd need Max to have a few DNFs and Lewis to win a couple of races to get to that point. So
they're 100 points behind Red Bull with 10 races to go. You probably don't see them catching him there in the constructors.
No, it would really depend on Perez finishing poorly and DNFs etc. to catch him. But yeah, unlikely. It's probably Red Bull's year this year. But otherwise, Hungary was very close and a lot of good racing. The new race cars kind of proving that they're definitely have improved the race quality and what we're seeing on the track week in, week out. So it's been pretty good. And then I guess we get to the silly season that is the summer break, where they talk about F1 driver seats. So who's got a seat for next season? And Alonso kicked it all off. By all accounts, July 31st, Oscar, how do you say his last name? Piastri. His contract finished. Next day, Alonso announces that he's going to Aston Martin, switching to go to the seat there, taking Vettel's seat after he retires, with a huge big middle finger essentially to Alpine in this one, because they knew nothing about it, only found out about it in the press release for Alonso. Then I guess tried to get ahead of the ball, saying that Oscar was going to be their driver next season. Whose manager is actually Mark Webber.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, but
Queen Bee Anne represent.
Yeah, but then Oscar tweeted saying that I'm not driving for them next year. There's nothing in agreement. So there's a whole bunch of contract stuff going on. It sounds like they had a deal done with McLaren for Danny Ricciardo's seat for next season, and then McLaren have told Ricciardo that his services are no longer needed. Go find a seat. So he's gone back to Alpine, which was Renault, who he used to drive for.
Well, this hasn't all been confirmed yet, has it?
Not yet. By all accounts, it sounds like Alpine and McLaren have lodged their contracts for renewal with the F1, for review, not renewal, so review with F1 to see how they'd go, because McLaren can't get out of Ricciardo's contract without paying him large money. So potentially they're going to pay him large money to get out of his contract, because the option's in his favour. But they're not going to announce anything, I think, until Ricciardo's found another seat, which looks like they're going to Alpine to potentially do that. So
driver swap.
Yeah, do a straight swap there. So it's a bit unfortunate the Australians stealing the seat from another Australian, but potentially good for us. Next year we might have two Australians in F1 with seats. So yeah, pretty wild kickoff from Alonso, essentially fucking over Alpine, because Oscar also was meant to be Alonso's replacement. So he's also going, by all accounts, to McLaren. So it could be... well,
there was heaps of other rumours with him being loaned out to Williams.
Williams confirmed Alex Albon will stay there.
Yep. So I think it was more for Latifi than anything else.
Yes. But also I think that was more this year too. So
no, it was,
yeah, whether they'd can Latifi and give Oscar a bit of a run. Again, trying to get him to confirm a seat, but looks like they've done the deal with McLaren, and we'll just have to see in the coming days whether it all gets approved and gets finalised. But it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully Danny Ricciardo can keep a seat for next season, but it's looking likely. Well, actually, enter the chat. Schumacher talking during the week that he's all about Ferrari. He could see himself in a Ferrari, moving to Ferrari, following in his father's footsteps.
Indeed.
Which probably means Carlos Sainz would have to give up his spot, but I don't think Ferrari's going to do that. I think they're quite happy with what they've got. I think it's more...
That Ferrari pairing's really good. They just need get their strategies right. Yeah.
I wonder if it's more Schumacher kind of laying groundwork for future seasons discussions. Not next year, but maybe the year after kind of thing. But Haas haven't confirmed their drivers, so there's potentially a seat there where they, I think Schumacher's guaranteed to be at Haas with their sponsorship dealings in Germany. It's more whether they get rid of Kevin, get rid of Magnussen. Maybe that frees up a seat. But that's, a big step back for Danny, and whether Ricciardo would want to do something like that. But anyway, silly season. Seats are up for grabs. Potentially anyone could be driving for McLaren. That's been all the memes that they've, 20 different drivers are driving from McLaren next season. I
think Norris is definitely sure.
Or Oscar's confirmed driving for every team next year. Like that's all been all the things. But yeah, it sounds like McLaren want to go a bit younger. And get a potential future champion in Oscar in. He won F3, he won F2, so whether he can win a F1 championship.
A few weeks off. 28th of August is the Belgian Grand Prix. So what's that, 3 weeks?
3 weeks,
3 weeks away.
Yeah, this is the summer break.
Yeah.
And that'll wrap up the podcast. That'll conclude the pod.
I think that's it. We don't have anything else.
We'll be back next week.
Lions did win that
Lions
game.
did win.
Be a bit of a fight back there from the Blues. They got
Yes.
it within 2 goals, but then Lions kicked, I think, 3 on the trot to then blow it out by
Ends up being 33 points. Their Carlton's season, they must win one of their next 2 games, and it's Melbourne and Collingwood, I think. So
tough run home.
Indeed.
In the other game, it was close. Crows have taken a 20-point lead-ish.
In Josh Kennedy's last game.
Yes, and then in the Wooden Spoon avoidance bowl.
Oh, yeah, I would be interested.
Full-time Knights
Knights
win by
14,
4.
West Tigers 10. So Knights probably can't get it. West Tigers definitely still can. Just looking at the ladder there, alive. The Knights actually jumped the Warriors with that win. They go to 13th. The West Tigers
Warriors potentially could still get it.
potentially that would require 2 wins from the Gold Coast Titans. I think it's a 2-horse race for the spoon there in the NRL between the Tigers and the Titans.
To be back-to-back for the Tigers.
Yeah, they got it last year.
Would that be
Or did the
triples?
Bulldogs get it last year?
No. Yeah, maybe.
How good are our memories? We would have spoken at length about this, and then we spoke about that much sport, and I can't remember. I think it was the Bulldogs.
Last season?
Yes.
Last season.
Yeah. The Bulldogs.
Bulldogs there? Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Confirmed.
Tigers finished 13th, bro.
Alrighty. And it was Brisbane the year before. Anyway, doesn't matter. That'll do us.
That'll do us. We'll see you next week. The week after, we might have the week off.
Yep.
And then that'll get us right into the final round of the AFL, NRL, etc., etc.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Let's
Thank
go.
you all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you to anyone that joined us live as well. We do appreciate the live comments. They definitely help to steer the conversation. And hopefully you're having a good week if you're listening back to this as the podcast. We'll be back Sunday sometime next week. Until then, have a good one. You weak gutted dogs.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.